Warm greetings from the high 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans. Thanks for joining me. Happy hump day to the viewing audience. We're going to take a deep dive once again into this case out of Idaho pertaining to the students who were viciously murdered inside of their home that they shared with other roommates. I'm going to be playing you information from weeks ago pertaining to a possible suspect's motive and all the variances pertaining to this crime. There will be a vigil, plural, on the said University of Idaho campus today, starting at 5 p.m. I will try to bring you that information either when it transpires or thereafter. Thank you all so much for joining me. I will also play someone else's content pertaining to the mix-up of what actually happened with the phone call to 911. This will be someone reading off what allegedly happened on the morning that Ethan was discovered deceased and the other young people were discovered. I do think that it's strange that there was a discrepancy of what actually happened, of who called who and how many people were calling 911. All of that should have been revealed in the beginning as not to confuse outsiders to what the roommates were doing and not doing, because naturally you can only form an opinion of pertaining to the information that's given to you. So if the information is different on this network versus what this network is saying, naturally people don't watch every network to know who said what and what happened. So we're going to chop up that piece of information of how the girls came to discover the young man and made it outside and who passed out and all of that said information. But first, I want to bring you information pertaining to the vigil that's going to be held later today and the cars being towed by the victims and the surviving roommates. Live now from Fox is the source. Thank you for joining me.
Let's go out now to a story we have been following from the very beginning in Moscow, Idaho. Those 4 students on campus who were found stabbed to death. Police still don't have a suspect or suspects in custody. We're going to be joined now live from the campus of the University of Idaho by Fox 13 Seattle reporter AJ Jandavel. And AJ, thanks so much for being with us. And you just got there. You're gearing up for this vigil on campus tomorrow night. What more do we know?
Andrew, so many questions still remain. A concerning situation as students started getting back to campus following Thanksgiving break. They got back this week. You can see behind me right at one of the entrances of the university this memorial here with the names of the 4 students who were murdered. 2 weeks later, they still don't have a lot on what happened. Big question is looking for suspect information, but there is a large effort that is going on in the town of Moscow to try and find answers. There are dozens of local as well as state police investigating. There's also 40 plus members of the FBI who are a part of this investigation. But as those students make their way back this week, and the people who live in this community are still waiting for answers, there are a lot of questions that do remain.
Commercial. And a commercial break. Sorry about that.
Waiting for answers, there are a lot of questions that do remain. 4 students murdered. The tragic and heinous attack happening where they should feel most safe, at their home. The deadly home invasion happening sometime in the early morning of Sunday, November 13th. This map breaking down the timeline and locations of key events, police say. Investigators saying the attacker stabbed the young adults to death, likely while they slept. However, autopsy data shows some of the victims had defensive wounds. 21-year-old Kaylee Conclaves, 21-year-old Madison Mogan, 20-year-old Xana Kernodle, and 20-year-old Ethan Chapin, a young man from our area in Skagit County, were killed. Fox 13 News hearing from Chapin's mom earlier this month.
Ethan Chapin, one of the most incredible people you'll ever know.
More than 2 weeks out with no weapon and no named suspect, Moscow police continue the investigation.
This crime and the loss of these young lives is just simply beyond comprehension.
State police and the FBI are now working alongside the local department. 488 tips have been submitted to the FBI, according to the Moscow Police Department. But with the information also comes confusion and fear. Police spending a lot of time addressing rumors that continue to pop up, including conspiracy theorists on Reddit focusing on a red Mustang on South Deacon Street. However, police say the car is not connected to the case. One lead police are looking into is reports Conclaves had a stalker. Following investigations into this possibility, police have not verified if this is true. Officials are calling the murders a targeted attack, but not saying why they believe this to be the case. On the night of the murders, 2 other roommates and a dog were in the home and unharmed and unaware of the violence happening just feet away. Students of the university now deal with uncertainty as they return to campus.
No one would have ever imagined something slightly like this could happen in Moscow, Idaho.
So even though police believe that this is a targeted attack, that killer is still out there somewhere, and police are asking this community to remain vigilant. They're also asking anyone that might have any information that leads to answers to contact them. Andrew?
AJ, I was also kind of curious, this community, very, very small, they haven't even seen a homicide for, almost 10 years. Let's talk about the vigil being planned for tomorrow. How many people are they expecting? Who's going to be speaking? Have we heard also, local, state, federal elected leaders? Will they be there tomorrow?
Andrew, I think that this incident has impacted not just the community here in Moscow, but a short way from where we are is the city of Pullman, where Washington State University is located. So you have 2 big colleges, 2 big universities with a lot of young adults. What happened here is a terrifying situation. We've heard from so many leaders through so many different departments, law enforcement, city leaders over the last few weeks, just speaking about how heartbreaking this situation is, how terrifying this situation is. You have a campus here with more than 10,000 students. I think that you can expect a large turnout tomorrow, especially with what we've already seen and heard and the effects that this tragic incident has had on so many people. Andrew?
AJ, just last question for you. You were based in Seattle. It's some 300 miles away, but it just shows how much this story has affected not only Idaho, but Washington State in particular. Why?
Well, I think that any parent, any student, any family who hears that 4 young adults, 4 students essentially in their home right off the campus deal with such a terrifying situation is really anyone's biggest fear. But for us in the Western Washington area, in the Seattle area, Ethan Chapin was a part of our community out of Skagit County, a member of Western Washington, and this murder, his murder, has had such a big effect on the people who live in the area where we work and cover and work to give a voice to the people in that community. Andrew?
You're the guy with the gun.
Intermission. Thank you all so much for your time. Happy holidays to the viewing audience and happy hump day. Let's continue this. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Work and cover and work to give a voice to the people in that community. Andrew?
All right, we do thank AJ Jabno there outside of the University of Idaho campus. We're going to continue with this story right now as well, because we want to head out to outside of the Moscow Police Department. That's where we find Fox News multimedia reporter Ashley Soriano. We spoke to her earlier today. Let's check in with her yet again. I know it's cold out there, Ashley, but this vigil is going to be held tomorrow night. What more, though, are police saying? They've had to kind of swat down some of these rumors about their investigation. Give us a sense.
Hey there, Andrew. That's exactly right. On that vigil tomorrow, there will actually be one across 4 of the University of Idaho's campuses. And that just goes to show you how important this is to the entire state and the university system. As for some updates, police have actually earlier this afternoon, they towed some of the victims' vehicles from the parking lot right in front of the house where they were killed. And that is a new development. It's been over 2 weeks since they were killed, and those cars have largely remained just parked there, but they have towed those vehicles to collect some evidence. They're also dispelling rumors about a possible connection to some other stabbings. Police have said they found no evidence connecting these killings in Moscow to a 1999 double stabbing in Pullman, Washington, and another in Salem, Oregon in 2021. The City of Moscow Police Department has taken to Facebook quite frequently to dispel some of these rumors that are running rampant on social media. So that is the best place to find those updates. We haven't had a news conference and heard from police since last Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving. But again, they just continue to update on social media. Andrew.
Okay. Ashley Soriano there, live for us outside the Moscow Police Department. Ashley, thanks so much. We will definitely be checking in tomorrow.
Thanks, Andrew.
This content was uploaded 12 hours ago by Live Now from Fox. New day, vigil at 5 p.m. today, Wednesday. We're about to start a new month. So, oh, mercy. So much to bring to you guys. Let's chop up what was said during this 8-minute video. Thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BigAngie, $129 Cash App. All stickers and chats are welcome during this live. I will drop the link because I want feedback from you guys pertaining to the information I'm going to bring you that was uploaded weeks ago when this crime first happened. I didn't jump on this case at that time, so we're going to go back to the beginning. This live is pertaining to the beginning of everything said, done, rumor, all the way up until today. That is what we're discussing in this live. The suspect, the motive, cars being towed yesterday from the property. Was there a thorough investigation done? We're going to chop up the suspect, who he is, what he's about, his motive. And was this a pre-planned homicides, plural? Were these crimes pre-planned by the perpetrator? It is alleged in this commentary by Fox that the victims were asleep. Were all of the victims asleep at the time of the entry into this home? Some of the victims fought back. Which victims fought back? No new information pertaining to suspect profile. Police have not brought us any more information. 40 plus agents have come to this town to investigate these crimes of these young people. The FBI is also involved. 488 tips been given to police pertaining to the crimes. Rumors of a red Mustang that has been debunked by law officials. It is also alleged that Kaylee had a stalker. Is that true? Not verified by LE. Targeted attacks. But yet still no new information pertaining to the slayings of these children. And no one's really telling us anything. So who was the target? 2 roommates went unharmed, plus a dog. Many are questioning why. Did the 2 people go unnoticed, unharmed? Is it because of the location of where they were, allegedly in the basement? What's the truth? Ellie is asking for the public's help in any type of information, video surveillance, any tip that you can bring that's viable. As most of you know, a lot of people like to film, go live streaming from Facebook, TikTok, IG, and you never know what's in the background of what you are filming. Yes, they are children. They're children of God. They belong to someone. They have parents, so they are their children. And they're children to me because I'm old enough to be their mother. So to me, they are children. It's no disrespect to who they are. This city hasn't had a crime in under 10 years, about 7 years or so. But that is the point of true crime. It's that you do not know the human mind, and anybody can pop off at any moment. So even if you live in a small demographic, of 20,000 or 25,000 people, because I believe the population of this town is under 30,000 or 30,000 roughly, anything can happen. And you should know that if you haven't had a crime in 5 years, 6, it's on its way. It's a sad analogy, but it is the truth because you do not know the human mind. As I said, once again, the vigil is today on 4 of the campuses affiliated with Idaho University. So if anyone is in that general area, feel free to stop by any one of their campuses to pay your respects for the young people who were viciously killed. The effect on the community. Naturally, it's going to affect them economy-wise, because if a lot of the young people are working in the businesses in the town, some may not want to continue working, living in the town anymore. And that's going to be a very harsh reality for the university. Okay, because you're talking about, let's see, 10,000 students patronize this campus. We're going to say at least half or more actually live in Moscow, okay? Some may be commuting from home or commuting from their own home or apartment, but let's just go ahead and say half, at least half or more, actually live in the town. What is going to happen to those students? Are they going to continue living there? Are they going to return after this semester? Are they going to go somewhere else, drop out of school? You never know what crime can do to the human mind, to the spirit. Because we're not there, we're not students, and naturally these children are fearing for their safety because they don't know who the perpetrator is. Despite all the speculations and rumors, which I'm not participating in none of that nonsense. Because as I said, this case has too many moving parts, too many people are involved to pinpoint who the killer is. Could be a student, could be a scorned lover, it could be one of the neighbors. They're all grouped up in there. Once they give you a visual of what it looks like over there, it's nothing but apartments, duplexes, and houses. It could be anybody. Once again, how is this going to affect the town if some of the kids leave their jobs? Now these people have to go out and hire new hirees for restaurants. Victims work at restaurants. Now those people are deceased. So now you got to hire somebody. And I'm sure, as I said, a lot of these young kids had to work because they have to pay rent in the places that they were living. They want to make sure that this community has a voice pertaining to the deaths of these young people. So we're going to keep talking about this crime and try to be as respectful as possible, because we are talking about some young people who were viciously killed. No connection to other cases in Oregon and Washington, the police has said. But how do we know there's no connection to those crimes? Because the couple that were killed, I believe it was Oregon. I can stand corrected because it's one of the two, Oregon or Washington. That was a young couple. And the husband died trying to save his wife. So how do I know what happened a few years ago doesn't have anything to do with this case here? I don't know. All right, everybody. The last update from law officials was 1 week ago. Naturally, they're only going to give you an update pertaining to information that they want to release to the general public. What do they know? Are they releasing those cars to the family? Or, as I heard them saying, a secure site, they're taking the cars? Is this where they're going to do all the diagnostics and DNA swabbing and checking the cars for anything? Is this a thorough look over of all the cars at a secure site? As most of you know that's following the story, it has snowed in Idaho. So I don't know if it will have much bearing on the case, because I do believe they're getting ready to wrap up all the forensics of the house, inside and outside. So I'm praying that they have done due diligence in looking outside, from the front to the back, the balconies, the surrounding periphery of the house, behind it, the apartment complex above it, anything that looks suspicious, out of character, anything thrown down such as cigarette butts, Checking the dumpsters at the apartment complex will be very vital because let's just say it's somebody that lives in the apartment complex sitting above that house to the right. The person could have thrown something in the dumpster. And naturally, they told you that they did check dumpsters in the vicinity of this house. Thank you all so much. Was this a pre-planned murder? Who is our suspect? What is the motive? Anger, revenge. I brought you a lot of content yesterday. Please forgive me for that long live because I don't like going live that long. But when I'm playing a lot of audio, that's what takes up all my time in going live because I have to bring you, in my opinion, I feel like I'm obligated to bring you the most information that's being released. But naturally, I can't keep up with every network that's releasing information on these kids. So that's what makes the lives long, is playing all the audio so you can get a general idea of what is being said to whom, who's being interviewed. Naturally, I will miss some things, but that's the whole point. This is an ongoing investigation, so I'm not going to be able to keep up with everything and everybody that's going to be interviewed. Yes, that was a great live last night. I hate they went so long because it's harder for the viewers to sit and watch anything that long. And really, due to the fact that this case has so many moving parts, if you're planning on having a link drop, it's going to go long, depending on waiting on people to hit the link. Then you have people who only just upload the latest content, then they're out of there. 8-minute, 10-minute videos. I don't do 8-10-minute videos. I think most of you know me. I'll bring the information. I may chit chat with you in the chat. I may drop the link, wait to see if somebody hits it. But this is a complex case because there's too many victims. So therefore, you can't even pinpoint who the killer is. And that's why I'm not giving you a theory. I will not give you a theory. I will not release a theory on this live stream, and nor will I give a theory in my head or behind closed doors because I don't know who killed these kids. I don't know the motive. And some people may be shocked. Last night, I'm sure AB was like, "What? You don't have a theory?" No, I don't. Because there's too many people involved for me to have a theory. Let's go ahead and chop this on up, everybody. We're going to go back a few weeks and listen to commentary pertaining to a law official who gives his rendition of suspect, motive, all of that. And he was very detailed. I like the information that he gave because he's kind of like the queen. He's a thinker, and he laid it out of what he thought could be, not be, the weapon used, the person who did it, who is he, what he's about, what he's angry about. See, those are the things you have to ask yourself. That's how you're going to find the killer. You got to know something about the kids, such as what the sister said. We want you to know who our daughter's sister is. We want you to know how she would react. Exactly. Because that's how you're going to find the killer, is to know who all four were in life, who they interacted with, their thought process, their temperament, what they did not like. That's how you're going to find your killer. And naturally, evidence and DNA. What DNA was left behind, what evidence was left behind? Did the perpetrator cut himself? 9 times out of 10, he did. Raw video, law enforcement expert shares perspective on University of Idaho murders. Thank you all so much for joining me. This is about 24 minutes, so bear with me. Almost 25 minutes. But it's informative information.
Colleges, it's tragic. I've got young kids in college. It always reminds me of that those are not always the safest environments. They are safe. We expect them to be safe. But at the same time, we realize that there's a world out there, and there are people sometimes that are, meaning to do harm to our children. And that's always concerning to me. I look at this situation. This is a high profile case. And I'm always looking to get that information, with a homicide or multiple homicides in this case. We expect to see, results fairly quickly. It doesn't always happen. But we expect that law enforcement, federal agencies get involved, and there are those suspects that are close to the victims, whether they're family, associates, classmates, somebody close to the victim tends to be the most probable subject at the beginning. But we get a few days into it and we don't see arrest, we don't see closure, we don't see people saying that we have a suspect or we have good ideas and the community is not at risk. We're seeing the opposite. Community needs to, take precautions.
Who is the suspect? Is the suspect close to the victims, or he knows of the victims know of him? Did the victims have interaction with the killer at some point before death?
I noticed that there was a professor that came out and said he's canceling class. Grades are not as important as human life. And to me, that speaks that, they're nobody's in custody, and we want to make sure that these students are safe. That's, as an academic, that is one of my, that's one of my tenets, that they come first.
I think, part of it, people are just having a hard time wrapping their mind around the fact that 4 people were stabbed, and this person, able to stab 4 people with 2 roommates in the house and get away and still be running free now.
Right. And again, as we look at, the possibilities, obviously we look closest to the victims, and we have 4 victims, we look closest to the victims as somebody that is the subject. But when you get a few days out of this, I start to worry about those true victim crimes, the true victim homicides, whereas the victims and the suspect aren't known to each other. And this is, and I hate to use the word, but a Bundy-like situation that we, saw down in Florida many decades ago. That this is, somewhat, I'm not going to call it random, because if this individual is unknown to them, there may have been some planning. There may have been, other precursors to what was going into that, for him to, organize and go in and commit a crime like this. At the same time,
random. Was this random? Was this just somebody wanting to prove to himself that he could get away with murder? There are all types of killers out here. Some are what I would say high strung. There's no plan. There's no nothing. So what's this pre-planned? Same day before, weeks before, had the perpetrator been watching the victims and decided on this fateful day he would make his move in the wee hours? What is the truth about the perpetrator? Is the perpetrator a student, friend, associate of the victims? A neighbor, dwell right in one of the apartment complexes, duplexes, right under the noses of these kids? Who is the perpetrator?
And go in and commit a crime like this. At the same time, I don't take out that there is somebody close to these people, somebody that saw them, somebody that went to school with them, somebody that associated with them in the community or at work or in some type of endeavor. And they became fixated on them, and we have to look at that. Or, as in some cases we look with school shootings, was this based on peer rejection or social rejection? Was somebody, maybe have a weapon fantasy, let me back up. Or maybe somebody has a weapon fanization, especially with a knife, because when we see mass killings, typically that's a firearm. And for somebody to use a knife is unique. I think that if this is somebody in the community that is still there, the police are probably going out and talking to people and saying, who may have felt a social or peer rejection from one or all of these individuals, who may have been talking about, morbid things or fascinated with knives, and other things that may be something that law enforcement is going to want to focus on. And when we talk about the FBI's involvement and the capacity that they have to, again, look at the psychology of the suspect and the crime scene, the victimology, these are things that they're going to be examining and following up on.
So definitely some profiling. I think we've heard that they are doing that.
And I hope they are. In a case like this, whether it's 24 hours old or it's a few days old, that is one of the resources that the FBI can bring. And it's not just the people in Idaho. You're reaching out. The one strength, many strengths that the FBI has, but one of those is they can bring very smart people, into this that aren't in Idaho, that aren't in Utah, that are literally across the country, but have specialties in these areas. They also bring, great investigative powers. They bring, the ability to look at a lot of different investigative leads, electronic. We leave a footprint everywhere we go now.
Yes, that's true.
There are cameras everywhere. We have satellites. We have other, tools that the FBI has to be able to track people down that may have been in that area or saying something or doing something. They bring those great resources and money sometimes, with other, means of getting, source information. And so that's going to be powerful and very helpful, hopefully, in this case.
And do you think it complicates things given the fact that, we've heard this was kind of a party house, it's on Greek Row, all of these people are in the Greek community, a lot of friends going in and out. I mean, I just imagine, they're trying to narrow down if you did have some DNA, that would be really challenging, I imagine.
I just can't believe that.
Sorry about that intermission.
If you did have some DNA, that would be really challenging, I imagine.
It could. I mean, the fact that this is a college town, this is a college community, and when I say that, the neighborhood that they work, they live in, the area that it happened, people in and out, the characteristics of a college town and a college area and a college house, and that throws it in. The fact that they are in the Greek, the fraternities, sororities, people that they associate with, there's larger numbers. But we also have to remember we've got the whole college campus. We have the town. We have the people that associate with the college students and these specific students in particular. Those are all areas that you have to run down the leads. And again, I'll go back to the mouse.
Let me go ahead and interject in here because I want to try to keep my time allotted properly. Was this a planned attack, pre-planned, or was it random? Did the perpetrator bring a knife or borrow a knife from the kitchen of this house? Local citizen, Moscow, outside of Moscow, suburbs, small towns, or is this a traveler? Do they live in the state of Idaho? Or is this somebody from out of town who's just passing through? Who is the suspect? Where does he live? Was this revenge? You hear there's no sexual assault. Very strange in these type of cases that you don't have a sexual assault. I also got information that nothing was done to the bodies of the victims, allegedly. No type of carvings, no type of writing on the walls, any type of letters, any type of signatures to say, yes, it is me. I did this. Very interesting. Was this a robbery? Somebody got spooked going in. Went in while the kids were gone, but then heard somebody come in, had to hide. What happened? When did the perpetrator make it in and how did they get in? Have they told it to somebody, hinted that they are the killer? Cut themselves, went to the doctor, ER, went to the store, bought a lot of bandages. Somebody's suspecting something with a victim. With this person, did they cut themselves? He also mentions fascination with knives. Why was a knife used in this crime? Why not a gun? Why use a knife? Does this person have a fascination with knives? And remember, he is also free. Thank you so much for joining me.
Those are all, areas that you have to run down the leads. And again, I'll go back to, the Moscow Police Department is a certain size police department. They have specific capabilities. Bringing in those federal partners, bringing in the state police, you're able to run down a lot more leads than simply if you had 3 detectives trying to gather everything, because there is going to be a need to interview and contact and do research and analysis on a lot of different people, let alone when we start talking about that electronic footprint, the surveillance, the cameras, the phone pings, the cell phone towers that had people there, again, and going into other technologies that our federal partners probably have and hopefully are going to utilize in this case.
Here you hear him talking about devices. How many devices have been dumped by all victims and the 2 remaining survivors? What has come back on the devices? iPads, movements, doorbell cameras from neighbors. What has anyone seen suspicious pertaining to the house itself. Has somebody gone in and given vital information pertaining to a suspect or surveillance, but it has not been released to the general public? You hear that they brought that naturally FBI is involved. So you're talking about 40 plus agents coming in with specialties to help solve this crime. Also specialties from other areas in the country coming in to add their 411. Who are all the people involved in this case to help solve this crime? Once again, the perpetrator used a knife. Why? This man tells you that it was unique that they used a knife. Why not a gun? Someone in the chat says it was noisy. Maybe, maybe not. But did they have a fascination with knives? That's very interesting. I'm also going to throw out in this chat something that came to my mind yesterday while I was doing this business. Could this be law enforcement? As I said, I did not want to go deep into speculating who the killer is because I do not have any theory as of yet. But could this be law enforcement? Could this be somebody that was in the military? Somebody that was perhaps an operative, Navy SEAL? What are we saying here? Some of you believe it's a hunter, but like they said, this is a hunting state. So that wouldn't really mean anything for those who are avid hunters and know how to, take care of animals in that way. Probably a dime a dozen. Why was a knife used on these victims? And the fact that they did it and left out no suspect, very brazen, very brazen. Let's continue this.
Partners probably have and hopefully are going to utilize in this case. And that takes resources. It takes, boots on the ground, but it also takes resources to have those expertise. When you add to that, the fact that the FBI brings, for instance, the BAU, behavioral and psychological profiling, that has to be broken down. Victimology has to be done on all the victims as to who they were, what was going on in their lives, how were they surrounding themselves.
Exactly.
Then you're going to look at the crime scene. And that crime scene is probably going to have a significant amount of information for those people in the FBI that are going to look at the behavior of the suspect. What happened? What type of crimes were committed during that? Was there kidnappings or assaults, or was there a sexual assault? Was it an ambush? Was it overkill? Did it appear to be organized? Did the person bring the weapon with them?
Exactly. What was left behind is evidence, because whatever was left behind is what led them to say that this was targeted. So what was so, I don't want to know the word to use. What did they see law officials to say, yes, this was targeted? That's why I said that did the killer do something to the victims? Was one stabbed more times than the others? As one person said in the commentary I brought you, one victim is going to have less DNA because that would be your first victim. Who was the first victim? Was it staged, the bodies? Did he pose the bodies in any type of fashion? Did one victim sustain more injuries, such as facial lacerations, stabbed in personal areas such as groin, breasts, buttocks? Did one get more brutality than the other victims? A lot of rage went into these killings. Why? Why these kids? One target, two target, three target, or could it be Ethan, somebody didn't like him dating one of the girls or hanging around with these girls. What's the truth to what happened in that house? Thank you for joining me.
Did it overkill? Did it appear to be organized? Did the person bring the weapon with them? Did they take a weapon from the house? All those things are going to tell you a lot about who the suspect was and why those victims were chosen. And as I said, if this is a true victim crime, then I think that it becomes a little more difficult because we're not dealing with people necessarily in that community.
And by true victim, kind of remind me what you mean by true victim.
You bet. True victim crimes are those crimes where the victim and the suspect are going to have no connection. These are, when we think about a Ted Bundy, when we think about, a serial killer like Israel Keys, These are, the victims are chosen, the crimes are well planned, they're organized, but there's a purpose to that. And I think what's interesting is if this person is outside their group, family, friends, associates, Greek community, college community, the actual community in Moscow, Idaho, that has a connection to the family or the college. If they're outside that, it again becomes a little more difficult to identify that individual. If they are within that group, we're going to be able to focus, and we're probably at some point going to contact them and interview them and talk to them about, if they have any information.
And this might be hard to answer, but I mean, do you think they know who this person is at this point and they're just not saying?
If you feel distant from the Lord, it's probably because you.
Sorry about that. Hey, these little intermissions.
They're just not saying.
And here's the thing: in that profiling, we look at what are potential. You get some great subject matter experts in there, people that can look at crime scenes and victimology, and although it may not be perfectly scientific, you have some really experienced investigators with some good backgrounds, that can look at this and say, what does this appear to be based on what we have? Is it revenge? Is it power? Is it anger? Is it meant to terrorize them? Was there a financial advantage to them? Was it robbery or burglary? And they can look at a lot of those and maybe then push themselves out to who may be involved in that. Now, I'll say this: one of the things that with my experience in being involved with the FBI and some of their investigations, one of the best things that they do is keep a good secret. And I think that as I work, in different things now as a private investigator, both on both sides, that is an important trait.
Let's go over what he just said. Robbery. I've mentioned that to you earlier in my lives. What's this robbery? Somebody knew that these girls had some goodies in their house, electronics. Somebody's been in there, seeing what they had. I believe they said Kaylee drove a Range Rover because somebody just assumed that these girls were well off, or one was well off. We know that they had some goods. Was anything stolen out of the house, such as jewelry, cell phones, iPads, any type of electronics, TVs, computers, any personal mementos, underwear, pictures? Because now you've got to lean on the fact that these family members, are they going to even know what all the kids had per se in their house, in their possession? Any type of jewelry? Did any of the girls wear any type of gemstones or anything? See, those are things you have to ask, because those things are going to tell you about the crime scene too. Did it look like they ransacked the place? That's something I didn't mention before. Did it appear that somebody had been going through dresser drawers, kitchen drawers, pulling up sofa cushions? See, those are things you have to ask, because a lot of you have already decided that you think you know who did it, but you don't know who did it. You don't know the motive. We're dealing with someone who is off their rocker. So it's no telling what they were doing in there. And God forbid they were lying in wait and made their way in there before the girls came home. It's no telling what they were doing. Using the bathroom, taking a shower, eating. Criminals have been known to go in the refrigerator and eat. Queen gives you the information to make you think. Because when you don't know the people, you don't know the perpetrator, you don't know what was there, you have no idea what was going on in the house. You just have no idea. As I said before, nobody knows everything that a person has purchased, so anything could be missing from the house. You can't say what was missing from the house. There could be some things missing that nobody knew that the person had. You're talking about 4 different people. You don't know what they took out of there. I don't care. It could have taken a toothbrush, anything. As I said, nobody was there. You don't know what he did to the victims. You don't know how long he was in the house. If he was in the house beforehand. If he's doubled back and forth in and out of the house. How about that? What if you find out he's been in the house more than once? He's been in there a few times. through the day. That's why I said we don't even know who the perpetrator is. Yes, that was mentioned, drug related in commentary yesterday, but so far there's no proof that anybody was selling drugs, using drugs, and we have not heard that any narcotics were found in the house. I'm going to continue.
Both on both sides. That is an important. Great. I have to tell you that
Thanks,
when I
Val.
worked investigations, we had what we call rule number one. Rule number one is don't say anything, because that information needs to be kept close. We can't get the media or family sometimes even knowing that information, because again, it can tip people off, and sometimes minutes are important. It can redirect people's behavior and get them more prepared when we come knocking on their door, or surveillance, or wiretaps and things that we may be doing. And so I don't think it's unusual for the police to absolutely, and the FBI, not to say anything. This could be a good sign, meaning that they got a pretty good idea who this is, and they are working hard to identify them, to get the evidence, to move to the next point. At the same time, again, if we look at this as maybe a true victim or somebody that's outside that social circle of theirs, we may not know who they are right now. And that, to me, from the possibility that we don't know who they are, we don't have any information. This is not, and I'll get, with the FBI tracking, is this something that's happened somewhere else in the country in the last few days or weeks or months? Is this, method that they used, or is the MO in this case similar to one other one, or multiples? It may be, and then we have to worry about serial killers or spree killers. But again, I as what they put out right now, I think there's going to be somebody closer in the community. I think it's going to be somebody that may not necessarily be close to them, but close enough in that circle that they're going to be able to identify. And then,
is the perpetrator close to the victims or lives in the community? Great point, because everyone's entitled to his or her assertion of this crime. But once again, you have no updates by law enforcement pertaining to a suspect or a profile. Does the person live in the town, outside of the town, drifter, transient, college student, somebody that works with the victims? You don't know. You don't know, but great points he's making. This is a law official expert. You have no idea who this person is.
and then move forward with hopefully putting together a good case, so that they can make an arrest, and then move on to prosecute and get justice for these kids.
Yeah. And they have called it, they repeatedly have called it a targeted attack. So what does that tell you? That, like you said, it's someone within their. So what does that tell you? That like you said, it's someone within their.
It's probably somebody that is going to be in that circle. Doesn't mean that they're right up against it. When we look at homicide cases, violent crime cases, a lot of time, we have to go one step away. A spouse, a family member, then we move a little bit further away. Associates and friends, neighbors, co-workers, classmates. Then we move a little bit further away. Ex-boyfriends, girlfriends, ex-spouses, people that we dated. And again, when they say, when they make a statement like that, then you look at what is the motive. Is it revenge? Is it, peer rejection, social rejection, especially within maybe those Greek communities where people are either in or they're out. And that especially at a college age, that can maybe, put out maybe an anger that goes, and then, maybe a terror response, meaning that, I want to terrorize somebody. I want them to make them pay. And so I think those are, when we look at the revenge, the power, the anger, or, maybe causing terror, those may be some of the motivations to somebody closer than a random true victim crime, meaning that the individual is passing through, or the individual may be from the area, but, not connected to the victims. Those are good possibilities at that point, especially if that is what we're hearing from law enforcement at this time.
And again, what does it tell you, given the fact that this person used a knife?
It's interesting because when we have multiple killers or mass killings, we've had school shootings or school deaths where we have a school place or workplace. But higher probabilities it's going to be a gun. The fact that it's a knife may tell us that this is more personal. It may mean that the individual could be as simple as the individual doesn't have the capacity to possess a gun. They're restricted. They don't have the ability to get a gun. They can't afford to buy a gun. It may have been, again, if we're looking at maybe a revenge type of thing, it may have been something that was meant to be scary, and it cascaded. And that was the only weapon that they had on them. When we see brute force and knives, sometimes those are disorganized in the sense that the individual uses that knife or blunt force that they find at the scene. At that time, opportunistic.
Did the killer bring his own knife, or did he use a knife at the scene? Was this an issue of opportunity, as I said, to rob the girls, as he said, scare the girls? But things got out of control. It's believed Ethan was possibly not in the room with the young lady. So was he up getting something to drink, thirsty, playing a video game? What do we know? Absolutely nothing. Because if Ethan wasn't in one of the rooms, then that means he was either out of the room when he got stabbed or tried to crawl out of the room to get to safety. Very interesting. Very interesting information. But it's interesting when you start hearing all these things, because it'd be nice to hear it from the police, not the people that were there. But it'd be nice for law officials to tell us a little something, but naturally, this is an ongoing investigation. Is the perpetrator close to the victims, knew the victims, knew of them?
Find at the scene, at that time. Opportunistic, meaning that I'm coming in the house to burglarize or the theft, and I get caught, and my only weapon at that time is a knife. But I do say there's a violence and a terror when a knife is used, especially with the fact that 4 people were killed, not 1.
Do you think this suspect should be scared at this point?
It depends, and I always say that with some, if this is somebody that has done this before, they're organized, they are in that group of what we would consider a serial killer. I think the fact that they haven't been discovered is part of what I think empowers them, and it is concerning to us. So if that's the category of person, they're probably less.
Who was the target? Who was the target? Why kill everybody? Once again, why use a knife? You hear the reporter asking this man, do you think that the perpetrator is afraid? Who knows? They didn't care about killing those kids, so I would say he's probably not afraid because you brazenly walked in somebody's house. Your house is sacred. So the fact that somebody could walk in your house should tell you something. Whether they went in through an open window, open door, cracked door, broke in, it's all the same. You're in somebody's house and you don't belong there. Nobody asked you to come there. So I doubt that he's afraid, the perpetrator. He's not afraid at all. Because he just walked into someone's house and killed 4 people and walked back out of there. What will video surveillance and eyewitness accounts tell us about the perpetrator? A description, a height, race. Is the man white, black, Hispanic, Native American? Who is our perpetrator? Law enforcement, friend, enemy, what? Student, neighbor? Who is our perpetrator? How long was he in the house? So you don't know any of those things. Those things is what tells the story. The motive, going in, how long were you in there? What did he do while he was in there? You'd be surprised what killers do when they're in a house. Something in that house told investigators that it was targeted. What was it? As I said, was one victim more brutally attacked than the other ones? Pose the victims. Position them in a certain way. Thank you for joining me.
is concerning to us. So if that's the category of person, they're probably less, because of their confidence, their antisocial behavior, some of the traits that go along with people that are involved in those kind of crimes. I don't think that they're too worried. I mean, when we look at successful serial killers that avoid law enforcement for a period of time, that's one of the things that they really that's a trait that they set themselves up so there's a low probability that they're going to be discovered right away. But eventually good police work, the citizens involved in making comments about what's going on, and a little bit of luck. I always think
Has the killer killed before? Attempted to kill before? Stalked other victims? Made derogatory, nasty comments about victims in general? What is the killer's occupation? See, you can ask 1,000 questions. Has the killer killed before? Committed other crimes, petty crimes, felonious crimes? Are they in the CODIS database? The reward fund has been mentioned, but the officer said, or whoever, chief, whomever, not at this time. They're waiting on the investigation, how it fares out before they decide if they want to offer up a reward, which I think one should have been offered up as soon as you saw the kids dead. That's my opinion. Is this the work of a serial killer? Has this person committed murder before, attempted murder? Interesting, there was no sexual assault, although being brutally stabbed is bad enough. But no sexual assault would lead one to think, okay, he's not a sadist as far as sex crimes, sexual gratification. But did he get off sexually on killing these people? It's a lot to ask. Did he do something sexual near or around the bodies, but not actually penetrate the victims? What happened in that house with the perpetrator? Serial killer, yes or no? Please go to my community board to take those polls pertaining to these crimes. Serial killer, live in town, out of town, student, not a student. I have various polls I put up late last night. Please go to my community board and take the polls, because after this, I will read the percentages from the polls. Thank you so much. This is KREM 2 News.
A little bit of luck. I always think, you can only be so good, and luck always runs out. And that's
Hello, TF.
We sometimes hang our hat in law enforcement as success with. If this is somebody in the community, this is somebody connected a little closer to the social, they should be worried. The truth is that if that is the person, they should be greatly worried, because I go back to, we leave a footprint. Everything that we do, things are different than 30 years ago when I started in law enforcement. I mean, there is the technology out there, the ability that law enforcement, especially at the federal level, the ability that we can leverage and exploit things within technology makes it very, very powerful. License plate readers, video cameras,
yes,
surveillance cameras.
Forgot about that.
Everywhere we go, people are out and about on social media. They're taking pictures, they're taking videos, and they don't always realize that picture has somebody in the background, or has a timestamp, or a place. The fact that wherever we go with our phones, we're leaving a physical, footprint. I think an Idaho case that is a good example is, it takes some time, but with the Daybell case over in eastern Idaho, the FBI sat down and they were able to put together, literally second by second cell phone locations of where people were on a specific date and time.
As many of you know who have followed true crime in the past, that many suspects in a crime were apprehended from speeding tickets, driving erratically, suspicious driving, maybe driving too slow. They parked their car somewhere, got a ticket. A lot of suspects in crime, such as rape and murder, parked their car somewhere and it sat too long. It got a ticket. I believe this has happened with Theodore Bundy, if I'm not mistaken, son of Sam, the killer that was killing people in New York many years ago. Did they park their car somewhere and it was noticeable? Too long. Person was wondering why this car was parked in a certain place. The time that the car was parked there. Will there be some surveillance of a car parked in the general area or walking distance from the house? Up on that hill where those apartments are, did the killer just go up there, park their car like they were going to someone's apartment, but slid on down the hill at the back of the house? So you don't know. Did the killer get any type of tickets on their car? Park their car in front of someone's home or apartment. Somebody was looking out the window wondering why the car was there, sitting there. Very interesting information. My mind is in rotation right now about the killer, how long he was in the house, what type of funny games he played in that house. Because as I said, you'd be surprised at things that people do when they're in your house, when they have broken in. What did the killer do in that house? What DNA was left behind by the killer? As heard in his commentary, or the one I played earlier, some of the victims fought back. Which victims fought back? Is there DNA under the nails of the victims of our perpetrator? Thank you for joining me.
Where people were on a specific date and time. We have to remember that we have satellites, a lot of satellites, private and public satellites that are flying over, taking pictures all the time. And those
very true
can be used
Didn't think about that.
resource for law enforcement to track people down and see who was in the area and who was moving and how things changed. All those resources are there. And so when I say this is a local person, these are things that are going to be looked at. The fact that it's a knife, I think, is also important. If that person is local, the question that I would be asking, significantly in the college community, the community around there, anybody fixated with knives? Anybody fixated, with the knife that they've mentioned that they're looking for is a military, style knife? So who's got a fascination with the military, especially somebody that's not in the military, failed military, maybe tried to get in, but for various reasons couldn't. But they still may be fascinated with with that weapon, because that's a unique weapon that people may use. Idaho's a hunting state, and so knives are not uncommon with regards to the recreating and that. But that knife, I think, is unique. If that is in fact the style of knife, I think it's a unique knife, and it tells us maybe a little bit about who that person is that has it.
And you kind of
fascination with knives. Is this somebody that didn't make it into the military, ex-military, Navy SEAL, combat, law enforcement, ex-law enforcement, wannabe law enforcement, stay woke. Many sadists, serial killers, wanted to be in law enforcement. We have found this in many cases of killers, sadists, rapists. They settled for being a security guard because that was the best they could do. Is this person, or has this person been a thrill seeker, wanting to do this for some time, is in law enforcement, ex-law enforcement, military, ex-military, didn't make it into the military? Who is this perpetrator? Is this the works of a beginning serial killer? Bingo card. Been killing before, moving around. As you know, Theodore Bundy moved Colorado, Utah, Washington State. I also believe Oregon. So do we have a multi-state killer going around state to state? Who's to say this person doesn't drive for a living? Bingo card. Come on with it, Queen. Who's better to kill a person than somebody like a truck driver? And many would say, well, walking around in college campuses and apartment complex, yes, there was a truck driver known, parked his truck somewhere in town, walked down a residential street, assaulted a lady in her house, killed her. I can't remember if they had met briefly of him walking down the sidewalk, but anyway, he ended up being in her house, killing her, and walked right down, got back in his tractor trailer, and kept it moving. See, that is your worst killer, is the killer that moves around, such as a truck driver. They're all over the United States, riding around, dropping off loads. That's why they're hard to find, killers who travel for a living. And who better to be a killer than a traveler? In and out. Next state, in and out. Next state, in and out. Very interesting information. Thank you for joining me.
I touched on this earlier, but just kind of explain to people, what are detectives, investigators, what are they doing right now? I think that hopefully the victimology of all four people was a real highlight at the beginning. The fact that they've got multiple resources, state police, FBI, we can do multiple things at one time. We're running down the victimology. We are doing analysis of the crime scene. That crime scene is telling us a lot about what happened. What was the sequence of what happened? What type of other activities occurred before or after? Were the bodies staged after they were killed?
Exactly.
Were the bodies, in any way, manipulated? Was there assaults on the bodies?
Exactly.
The defensive wounds. What were people aware of what was going on, and were they trying to defend themselves? Was there a fight? The thing about knives is, with a lot of knife wounds, once you stab, unfortunately, liquid starts to get on the knives, and as people stab, it's not uncommon for the knife literally to slip and cut the suspect's hand. And so if that happened, we're going to have, blood and DNA mixed in. And so, it's going to be very important as they analyze the blood. Is there a mixture of not the victims, and the victim's blood versus maybe getting the suspect's blood? Was there blood? Did we find droplets as the person left the house and outside? Those are going to be critical because they're going to tell us, what happened. I think, the question of the detectives and the FBI is going to say, was this an organized crime scene or was it disorganized? Was this planned, unplanned, or was it a mix? Were the things that actually, within the traits of what happened, are there mixed? And then, really trying to focus on what was the motive? Was there overkill in how many, stab wounds these people, made? Was there stab wounds specifically to the chest, the neck, and the head, which would tell us about maybe some anger, some rage that the subject had at those people, or at somebody else that may have been, that they may have been targeting. Sex assault, unfortunately, is one of those determining factors as to was there any type of assault beforehand, and if there was, they did rule out sexual assault. They said that they didn't find any evidence of that. So,
Hey, want to know how I got this $50,000?
Do you all trust that about sexual assault?
Sexual assault. They said that they didn't find any evidence of that. So,
my understanding that a nurse was the one that did the autopsy. So let's go here. Where are the bodies of the victims? Have they been sent to the state lab or FBI forensics? Because a nurse can't tell me anything about a dead person. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel about it. Because that's not the person that's supposed to be doing an autopsy on a body. So this lets you know that this town is not equipped. And there still should be a county coroner, even if you don't have one in your city. If the town is just too small and don't have their own coroner, you still should have a county coroner, medical examiner. Come on now. Because these people need to get it together. What are you going to do the next time somebody's murdered? Somebody goes missing. This reminds me of Chatham County. If you don't have the correct resources as far as forensic team, detectives, then that means it's time for you to sit at the table with the big dogs and do some reconstructing on your department, because you should know there's going to be another crime of a missing person's deceased person. Dear God, what would they have done if they had a concert at a festival and 20, 30 people got shot, murdered? Or what would they have done then? I guess what they've done here, had to call in outside resources, state resources, FBI. It's bad business. And I don't think small towns are even preparing for a worst case scenario. You have to prepare for a worst case scenario. You have to have something, someone, plural, lined up for a bad day. The link has been dropped. Hit the link. This video is almost over. If you want to give your opinion pertaining to this being a pre-planned crime, suspect, motive, cars have now been removed off the property, taken to a secure site. Will the cars reveal anything? In my opinion, they sat too long. Another official was on the news saying things were not covered up outside. What were those things that this person felt should have been covered up? Maybe they meant the cars. I don't know. But now you see it snowed there. So what would you get on the cars? They've been sitting out in the element for over 2 weeks. You're just now deciding to tow them week 3. That was not a good look, in my opinion. And the fact that you do not have a coroner or medical examiner, that's baffling to me. Each person goes to school for a different craft, such as a doctor, a nurse practitioner, a nurse, CNA. They are not all the same because what they study is not the same. Each one is a level higher than the other. So therefore, a dead body needs to be checked by a damn medical examiner. You need to know what was in these kids' system. Did any of them take any drugs, narcotics, had a heart attack, stroke? Any of them had any type of disease or any type of ailments? You want to hear those things when a person has been brutally murdered. It's very strange. I understand, towns are small, but come on now. These are 4 dead people.
They did rule out sexual assault. They said that they didn't find any evidence of that. So
That's good. And so again, because with sex assault homicides, there's a lot of literature out there, but again, what I teach and kind of the foundation, what I have is there's 4 types of suspects there. And so when you have a sex assault homicide, you're going to focus on 4 types of suspects and who fits into those categories and those traits and those personalities. The fact that there's not, again, goes back to what is the motivation? Revenge, social rejection, anger, power, money, financial, profit, and like I said, human behavior, and that's the FBI with the behavioral analysis. The FBI is looking at this from what are common human behaviors that these suspects have. It's not always perfect, but we are able to take human behavior, and in a lot of cases, those things replicate themselves in these crimes, and we're able to find, and that's, again, where we're finding some of those personalities. It's not scientifically perfect. There are, high probabilities, low probabilities, medium probabilities that we may have, and we sometimes know that even though we think it's this person, when we actually retrospectively go back, we were off and wrong. And I think the FBI has done a good job from when my dad was in there in the 80s doing this until now. They go back and they see what did they miss, and they learn from that. Lessons learned. And I think in this case, the nice thing is that we have a lot of experience probably with the FBI and the local police and the state police, and they're probably using every tool on their tool belt to find out who did this.
And what does it tell you that, there's been crime tape at this house since Sunday and they're still there processing this scene?
Yeah, I teach investigations, and this is one of those things that, when I work on the defense side of things as a defense investigator, you get a first time first. And I teach that in my investigations class. You only get a first time first. If you walk away from that scene and think, oh my goodness, we got to go back, there's a possibility that somebody's altered it, tainted it, removed something. Don't give up the scene until you have to. That's, one of the things that I sometimes see, and this is a big case, and I don't think they would do it, but in other cases, law enforcement gives up the possibility of gaining more evidence, or just kind of engages in a mediocre investigation and leaves things, and then maybe comes back later. And throughout my career, I saw that happen where we release a scene, and a few hours later, somebody's calling us and saying, "Hey, I found something." That is not good for your investigation. And so the fact is, hold that scene as long as you need it. It could be a day, it could be 5 days, it could be 2 weeks. Hold it, because as we look, we may not have got it on the first look, but we still own that scene. It's not tainted, and we can go back in there and collect that evidence as if it's the first time. First time first.
KREM2 is the source. Thank you so much, child of God. One moment, I'm going to do a recap of everything. Then I'll let you speak, and then I will I'm going to play some audio for you pertaining to what allegedly happened with the phone call from the roommates. This is not an actual phone call, but it's someone who contacted a YouTuber and gave information because they wanted to defend the two roommates because there was a discrepancy on what actually happened when they discovered the body of Ethan, if that is to be correct. Let me go over this right fast. Planned attack. Was this a pre-planned attack or random? Did the person bring or borrow a weapon? Fascination with military. And once again, is this a military person, ex-military, somebody that was never made it into the military? Local person or out-of-town person? Revenge, no sexual assault. But did they do anything sexual with the victims, pose them, position them in a certain way? I did hear that there was nothing left on the walls or written on the victims. So how do they know that this was a targeted attack? Was this a targeted attack or just some nutcase wanted to prove a point to see if they could get away with murder? Robbery. Was the suspect in the house already, standing outside? How did they get in? No signs of break-in. Surveillance cameras, inside, outside. What are we talking about? Did the girls come in and the robber hid? Was it a robber? Who knows? We also heard that this was a question if it was drug related. No mentioning of drugs in the house, in the kid's system, selling of drugs, trap house, no information pertaining to drugs. Has the suspect told it to somebody, hinted to somebody he's killed these kids? Did he cut himself, go to the doctor, ER, walk-in clinic? Walking around now, bandages. Somebody is suspecting something off with this person. They needed bandages. They got bandages, and someone is wondering, is the version true that this person is given? Did the perpetrator cut himself? Fascination with knives. Why did the perpetrator use a knife? You heard this teacher here say that it's very unique that the perpetrator used a knife. Why didn't they use a gun? Over 40 agents came in from around the United States to help with this case. Dumping of devices. How many devices have been dumped by law officials? What has text messaging apps come back to show what these kids were talking about, who they were talking to, who called them, what somebody had to say on any of their social media accounts, pages? Is there anybody that they blocked, deleted as a friend or follower? Stay woke. Did the victim say anything out of the way to anybody to spawn this crime? Argued with somebody? Did something felonious or deviant to somebody? Because although these children were murdered, but it does not mean they were exempt from doing something out of the way to another human being. We know that there was a male. So how, obviously the person who took down Ethan was strong. Ethan is tall. He's a triplet. And obviously he wasn't strong enough to take down the perpetrator. And if we're to believe that he was outside of his bed, we could deduct that he was possibly going to or from a bathroom, refrigerator, doing something. Maybe he heard something and the killer attacked him. This would lead Queen to believe the attacker is possibly the height or near the height of Ethan. Stay woke now. And it's not to say that a person 5'8", 5'10" couldn't be strong, but Ethan was a tall guy, at least 6 feet or more. So that means our perpetrator had to be a vigorous, tall, muscular, or strong individual in order to take down a guy. Very interesting. How tall is our killer? How is it that he missed the bottom floor with the two remaining victims? Which level did he come into? The bottom level by a window or climbed up on the balcony sliding glass door? Was it open or not? Left open by the girls. I'm going to bring you commentary that says the girls saw the door, the glass door open, which I believe is near the kitchen area on the second floor. Did the girls forget to lock the damn glass door on the second level? Did Ellie do a thorough job of this investigating inside and outside? You hear that they just towed the cars. Why? Why so late? 44 agents involved, FBI involved. Local agents or all over the United States. Has he come back to the scene of the crime? Has he been back, walked by, came over to the driveway and looked, gawked? How long was he on the scene before the victims got there? Was he already on the scene outside? Was he already inside of the house before the victims got there? At what point did the perpetrator make contact with the inside of the house? And imagine being awake when the perpetrator walked into your room. I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine what happened, period. But what would be more devastating is to know that the guy was up, walking around, using the restroom, awake, because we do not know the exact locations of the victims. In the bed, on the floor, day room, sunroom, whichsoever, kitchen. Assumingly they're all in a room except for Ethan. I'm going to bring you that commentary here in just a second. Is he law enforcement? Because when I say that the perpetrator has possibly been back to the scene of the crime, how crazy would it be if he's law enforcement? He has access to the house. He has access to the remaining victims. He has access to whoever had the doorbell camera. Stay woke. Listen to what the Queen's telling you. This would be horrifying to know he's law enforcement, sheriff, and he has access to the case. This is why I tell you I have no theory of who the killer is, because I have no idea. It's too many moving parts to say who's involved in this crime and the motive. 488 tips. Victims believed to be asleep. Rumors of a Mustang. Stalker of Kaylee. Not verified. Believed to be a targeted crime. 2 roommates were unharmed and a dog. Police asking for help from the general public. Town hasn't seen a crime in about 10 years. Vigil today at 5 p.m. 4 different campuses affiliated with the University of Idaho will have vigils for the victims. 10,000 students. How many are going to be returning? How many have left for good? This will also affect the economy of this town if most of these kids worked in the general area of Moscow. Okay? House is going to affect the community. People went and got deadbolts. I brought you commentary about that yesterday. A locksmith said he got 50 calls, gets 50 calls a day. People wanting to change their locks, add new locks. This is how serious this case is. So if anybody's out here wanting to use the case for financial gain or frivolous reasons, have mercy on you. Because if you keep ducking around and playing around in this true crime arena, you may find yourself ending up like the Idaho 4. And that's something some of you don't get with the doxing and the stalking of the victims, families, hanging around the people, going in their inboxes, putting people on blast. You better tread lightly, honey, because you just may end up dead like these kids. This is serious business. And everybody has a right to be on edge because we don't know who the killer is. This has affected many people in the United States, the state of Idaho, and naturally Moscow. This is scary. Fear has been put into many people who have been listening to this story. As I said earlier, the cars have been towed from the property belonging to the surviving roommates and the decedents. No connection to other cases in Oregon and Washington, although one of those cases did have 2 young people fighting for their lives in their home. The husband died trying to protect his wife, and it was a young couple. No new update from law officials since last week. Who is our perpetrator? Why did he use a knife? Was this a targeted crime, Was it one victim that was the target, but he killed the rest as collateral damage, asked to make sure he could get out of the house? Did he know the house, been in the house before, heard about the house, the layout? Did he get a code from one of the girls? Overheard the code being mentioned in a phone conversation, text message. So you don't know who the perpetrator is. You don't know the motive. And it is wrong to put anybody on blast. Let me make that clear. It is wrong to put anyone on blast as a perpetrator or killer of these kids because law officials have not given us one red sign of a perpetrator, a profile. Thank you so very much for joining me, child of God. Go ahead.
Good morning, Queen.
Hello.
Yeah, this one is tough because, like you said, it has so many tentacles, so many people, and you can make a case for a stranger, you can make a case for a friend, you can make a case for an enemy, and I'm very confident that the police know so much more than we do.
Well, what do you think they know?
Well, I think they're leaning maybe in a certain direction. They probably have a couple of people that they're deeply looking into, trying to include or exclude. They don't have to tell us anything. And
Well, let me ask you your opinion. Who do you think did it, a girl?
I keep going back to the Danny Rawling case out of Gainesville, where he stalked those two dorms for days. And then when he saw an opportunity, he went in. I think with so many people coming and going, who's to say that, you come in, you've been drinking, it's late, it's dark. Who's to say the last person in didn't lock the sliding doors? You don't know. I think the point of entry might have been pretty simple. I don't believe in any ladders or codes or anything like that on doors. I think they tried it, they went in, but as far as I can make a case for a friend or an enemy or a stranger. Like I said, I keep going back to Danny Rawling. Over 2 nights, what was it? Six kids were killed or 5 kids were killed in Gainesville.
So you don't think it was a robbery?
I think there was some sort of a power, sexual motivation, somebody scorned, maybe an incel.
Well, you do know that there was no sexual assault allegedly.
No, I understand that, but these crazy people can get off on a pair of shoes.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just saying.
And everything's on the table, everything. But like I said, I'm very confident the police know more than we do. We are not entitled to know anything. I think they'll come through. I think somebody will give them a tip. Somebody maybe who doesn't even know that they know something, but eventually they'll come out with it. The father of Kaylee, I read in the Daily Mail, doesn't even want to have a funeral for his daughter because he's afraid the killer will show up.
Yeah. Well, he can have a private funeral. Come on now.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe he will, but I don't think it's going to be anything open to the public. I'm sure they'll have some sort of a memorial for the family, But
I'm wondering when they're going to release the bodies to the families.
Yeah, I mean, supposedly the boy was released. Supposedly.
The boy Ethan was released. Yeah, I think I might have heard that. Okay.
Yeah. But as far as the other kids, I don't think so. Yeah,
How do you feel about them not having a medical examiner?
Oh my God, that's a joke. That's and not only that, then she went on live TV on the news and talked about her findings. That's very unprofessional.
Say what?
Are you talking about the person that did the autopsy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she went on the news and then she talked about some of her findings.
Mm.
And what is she? She was a nurse, and then
that's what I heard. That's why I couldn't. When I first heard her speaking, I did not know she was not qualified.
I mean, come on. I've never heard a quote unquote medical examiner go on the news before testifying in any trial, if there was to be a trial, and giving their findings to the public. I can't believe that was allowed.
I think that's happened before.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And whoever did it is probably loving all this.
Do you think the person will show up at the vigil today at the school?
Chances are yes. Chances are yes, because they want the notoriety without knowing it. They look at other people and if they only knew what I know. And police know that. I don't know that they'll be able to pinpoint any certain person. They may have to go back and look at all the video.
Okay, let's go here. Is this a serial killer or the beginning of a serial killer?
I think it's the beginning of a serial killer. If I had to guess.
So you don't think they've killed before?
Maybe animals.
How old is
Maybe
the
animals.
perpetrator?
I would say probably in his 30s.
Mm.
Not very old. You know,
Strong, obviously strong.
strong,
Fight off a boy, another boy.
strong. And don't forget, the boy was disoriented, the middle of the night. He probably still has some alcohol in him. The element of surprise,
So
everything.
listen. Oh, you talking about the victim?
The boy, yeah, Ethan.
Whether you think the perpetrator was drunk?
No, not at all. He was drunk on power and control and potentially some sort of sexual intention. But like you said, I don't think it was a hands-on sexual contact. I think it was more of a psychological sexual reaction.
Well, I haven't said if I believe if it was sexual in nature or not. I just know this is what they're telling me. But like I said, I want to make sure that a thorough autopsy has been done on all of them. If Ethan has been released, how do I know that he got a thorough autopsy?
We don't know, Queen. We don't know. We don't know anything. We just a lot of speculation.
You want to know what they ate, food digested, not digested, any type of ailments. If somebody had a heart attack or seizure while being attacked, those are things people want to know.
They want to know, but are we entitled to know at this stage of the game?
No, I'm just saying if they didn't have a adequate autopsy, honey.
Well, I know. I'm confident that
I don't expect them to tell me everything right now, but at some point you do get a release of what happened from what happened to the victims. It happens in every case. They tell you a manner of death.
Well, the toxicology reports usually take a little bit longer.
Yeah, but I'm talking about a manner of death. You can tell me a manner of death.
Well,
if you're a coroner.
Well, we know they were stabbed. Is that what you mean?
But I want to hear it officially, girl.
Oh, we do too. We all do. We all do. But we have to wait. We have to wait. Sadly, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Human nature. We all want to know. But there's families involved here.
Why do you think they used a knife, honey?
Why didn't they tell us that a knife was used?
Are you listening to anything I'm saying up here?
I am.
I said, why do you think he used the knife?
Oh, why? I think the close contact, the feel of life going out of these children's bodies. I know it sounds very sick, but that's the ultimate control, whether you quote unquote let somebody live or die. What's the more control than that? It's crazy. The average person doesn't understand that. But I think that the power and he probably liked it so much and he did it again and again and again. And I also wonder, did he even know that there was 2 more girls? I'm wondering if he even knew.
Well, my thing is, you're walking around the house. Why not find out?
Well, they were on the opposite side of the house on the very first floor.
Well, look, if you've been watching the house, listen, if you've been watching the house and you've seen these kids, you can use deduction. It's a big house.
I know.
But
I
said you don't know what he was doing while he was in the house, how long he was in the house.
Queen, it's all speculation. Any idea that I may have?
I'm just asking. Yeah. Just saying. Why not walk all the way through? You've already been to 2 floors. What's the big deal with going down another level? That's all I'm saying.
Maybe he started to panic after that. Maybe he heard something. Maybe the dog barked at that point. We don't know. It could be a myriad of things.
Do you believe this is a targeted crime, ma'am?
I believe it's targeted in that he was watching. That house.
Was all the girls a target or just 1 or 2?
No, I think all the girls were.
Okay.
There was no curtains on that house. None. From every picture I've seen. Girls tend to, especially in college, apartments. Girls walk around in their underwear. They're not savvy. I don't want to say they're innocent. They're naive. Do you know how many times when my girls were growing up, I used to have to say, put the curtains, pull the shade down. They don't even think of it.
Is the person local or out of town?
I've had to guess out of town and not immediate to the area. Not
Say what?
immediate. Pardon?
They're from out of town or not?
I'd say out of town.
Why?
Because people like this tend to leave their area and go stalking wherever they can. They're opportunists.
Somebody said they saw curtains up. Yeah, I thought I saw a curtain on the bottom level.
On the bottom level?
Maybe the back level, maybe the back side didn't have them or top windows, but I think the bottom ones did have curtains.
Well, those sliding doors didn't have any shades or anything. You know? I think he was looking at them, watching them for
Patricia,
a while.
what are you talking about? What knife incident?
I could very easily see a peeping Tom with evil intentions.
Somebody says they wonder if it's somebody that worked with Maddie at the coffee shop. Don't know. Don't know who it is.
I know you don't like rumors, so
I know.
Okay, I'm not going to give you any rumors then.
Mm-hmm. It's enough out already. They're already stalking the grub truck patron, grub bus, and then you got the boy Jeremy that lives next door. If they don't, my thing is, if law officials haven't said anything about the people doing anything or being suspicious, you don't have any right putting those people on blast like that. You can get somebody killed like that.
Yeah, and that's why. No, I wasn't going to give any names or any particular. But no, you're right. I'm not going to say anything. I wouldn't want it done to me, so I'm not going to do it. But yeah, I for some reason I get the whole peeping Tom.
Well, Mouse, if you shoot a person several times, I would assume they would die. You got to remember, he's been in the house for God knows how long. He obviously wanted them dead. So what's the difference? A knife and a gun. I can shoot you enough times that you will be dead. Shoot you in the head, you'll die. I stand there and watch you die. If I want to make sure you're dead, I'm gonna stand there and make sure you're dead.
Queen, did all the kids have?
Don't you find it strange? You don't find it strange that all the kids' staff are dead? I think he wanted to make sure that they were dead. So if he shot them, he would have done the same thing.
Yeah,
make sure they were dead.
Didn't they all have a chest? They all had the same chest wound and the same general.
Well, how about this? Maybe they didn't want to use a fucking gun. They wanted to stab somebody. That's why he used the knife.
Exactly. Because in a sick mind, you shoot somebody with a gun, you're not going to see them writhe in pain and fear in their eyes and begging for their life. With a knife, you will. And he did it 4 times. I also wonder if the girls on the first floor, if their door was locked. Their bedroom was right near the front door. Maybe it was a habit for them to just lock their doors at night. Maybe he did try. I'm sure they fingerprinted that doorknob. Maybe he went in, locked. I'm not gonna kick it in. I'm out of here. Who knows? Maybe they were spared for that one small bit of
It's amazing how you all come up with these deductions about a gun. People get shot every fucking day, and those people don't care that somebody heard a gunshot.
Yeah, nobody cares about that.
Two people just got murdered here in Knoxville. We don't know if it's a suicide, homicide. Well, if it was a suicide, homicide, he didn't care who heard it.
Yeah.
People just got shot the other day outside. There's been several murders in Knoxville here in a week. And trust me, nobody cared that somebody heard them shoot somebody. Obviously.
Yeah. I just pray to God that they find this person. It's terrifying. I can't even imagine being a parent. I can't.
Somebody says, what if the perpetrator knew the 2 girls that survived?
Anything's possible.
Yeah, honey, I'm just reading the comments.
I know. I'm just responding.
Oh, Lord have mercy. What a mess. There was a ladder on the side of the building. Somebody asked about that, and the person responded, well, I don't know if the detectives brought the ladder or not. And I thought, how hard would that be to ask? Hey, did you all bring this ladder?
Yeah.
Because people can see it in the photographs and the video. I think they should address the ladder. So how do I know they didn't climb up on the ladder? So that needs to be addressed. I mean, it was in plain sight for people to question it. See, these are the things that police don't think about when you're showing the house. You're showing drone footage. People are going to ask about anything they see in the video. So if I see a ladder on the side of a wall, why would I not wonder if the perpetrator climbed up on the ladder? Why don't you address, hey, that ladder does belong to the house or the occupants? Oh no, we brought that ladder to do blah 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 blah.
It could be somebody who what do you call when you are envious of someone else? Maybe he was somebody who wasn't able to get a girlfriend. He saw these pretty girls. Gee, why can't I have somebody like that? I don't want to just look and stare. They're never going to go out. Somebody like those girls that were beautiful would never go out with someone like me. An incel. I mean, those are just, I'm
Do you think
nobody.
the perpetrator is going to show up to the vigil?
I do.
Mm.
I do.
So you believe he's a white male?
Yes.
In his 30s?
Yes.
Doesn't live in town?
No, maybe on a little bit further out, but not in Moscow.
So
Somebody who makes the rounds.
So how did he find the girls?
Just by peeping. Maybe followed them home, knew where they lived, stayed in the back where the woods are, watched them for a while. Those sliding doors are huge.
Mm-hmm.
Did they leave them unlocked?
Well,
I mean, kids don't think about that stuff. They don't. As an adult, I would make sure everything is locked and double locked and triple locked. But when you're 19, 20, you're already inhibited by alcohol. It's, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. You're kind of stumbling in. The other kids probably left the slider doors unlocked if that's where they went in. The first couple that got in saying, oh, they're not home yet. We'll leave this unlocked. Leave it open for them. Who knows?
Mm.
Obviously, he got in. Obviously. The question is how?
I'm just listening.
Yeah, no, I know. I don't think they found any point of break-in. I think they would have told us by now if there was a point of entry that was, broken into. For some reason, those sliding doors and the woods in the back is a perfect vantage point. I don't know. Just by following true crime for years and years and years, I just wonder if it was an incel, somebody who just could not get a girl. He envied. What's the word that when you want something and you can't have it? Is that envy? I think so. Look at Richard Speck. How many? That's the case that got me turned on to true crime. Mm-hmm. 9 nurses, all by himself. And the only one that survived because she was hiding under a bed, and he lost count of how many girls there were there. Those poor women. 9. It can be done by one person. It can be done. That's for me. That's never been. Oh, it had to be more than one. I never thought that. When you're full of rage, you have superpower.
Superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
But you know what? The adrenaline, Queen, the adrenaline that goes through your veins, Okay. And like I said, he had the advantage. He was watching potentially. These kids were tired. They were drinking. It was dark.
I'm going to play a little bit of information pertaining to someone that contacted a YouTuber and wanted to get information out about what happened that morning. Hold on one second.
Do you want me to hold? I'll let someone else come up.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Queen.
Uh-huh. Hold on, you guys.
They implied that the roommate who fainted had already dialed them, but that it was so horrific, next if you like. So let me just see where the best place is to start. Right, 2 people who claimed to be at the house with the roommates when the bodies were discovered quickly came to the surviving roommate's defense. and wrote that the roommates woke up, went upstairs to the kitchen and noticed the sliding glass door was open, and it was during that time they discovered Ethan. I didn't say where he was found on that floor, but that it was so horrific that both girls went into shock and ran out of the house. One of the roommates fainted and the other was beyond hysterical and not making any sense. Their frantic actions while coming out of the house caught the attention of people walking past. The people responding on the
Let me go back to that.
IG.
When she went outside, hold on.
Two people who claimed to be at the house with the roommates when the bodies were discovered quickly came to the surviving roommate's defense and wrote that the roommates woke up, went upstairs to the kitchen and noticed the sliding glass door was open, and it was during that time they discovered Ethan. I didn't say where he was found on that floor, but that it was so horrific that both girls went into shock and ran out of the house. One of the roommates fainted and the other was beyond hysterical and not making any sense. Their frantic actions while coming out of the house caught the attention of people walking past. The people responding on the victim's IG claimed to be two of those people. They implied that the roommate who fainted had already dialed 911, but was so distraught that she fainted before she could give any info that the dispatcher could understand. The info that the bystander who picked up the roommate's phone could give the 911 dispatcher was she just saw her friend run out of the house and faint. So that obviously clarifies why the call to 911 stated that someone was unconscious, not that someone, that was something that a lot of people had queried before. So that's how the 911 call was made on the roommate's phone and by someone else, and why the call went out for an unconscious person. While that bystander was on the phone with 911, the other roommate was hysterically trying to explain that something was wrong with Ethan. By this point, several more people had stopped to see what was happening, and one or two of them went into the house to see if they could help him. There were multiple people in the yard at that time, and those people began contacting their friends that someone in the house was badly hurt. Someone called Ethan's brother Hunter to tell him something was wrong with his brother because he lived close to the house, and someone called one of the other victim's boyfriends as he was also Ethan's best friend. I didn't go into detail on if either of those boys had arrived before the paramedics did, but it did kind of sound like they did. They didn't go into detail on what kind of injuries Ethan suffered. They also didn't say if anyone went to check on the other roommates before the paramedics arrived, but it's somewhat implied that someone had. The only details I gave about the scene itself was that it was incomprehensibly bloody. While those people were in the house checking on Ethan and possibly the other roommates, the paramedics arrived to a very chaotic scene, believing they were to assess an unconscious person outside, but they were redirected to go inside to help someone who was hurt very badly. So they walked into the house unaware that it was a crime scene and contaminated most of everything on the second floor. It doesn't sound like the roommates were roaming throughout the house carelessly, contaminating everything, fully aware that their friends had been murdered. It sounds like the scene was contaminated by numerous people who were trying to help, unaware and unable to comprehend what they were looking at, and that it was a crime scene. And they go on to say, my heart breaks for these two poor innocent young females. Not only have they experienced a trauma so brutal that it can't be changed, trauma so brutal that it can't not change who they are at their core, but they will have to live with the fear that someone might be coming for them. And they grieve of loss for friends, plus a life that they once had that will never exist again. And if that wasn't traumatizing enough, they also get to live with millions of people publicly criticizing, persecuted, and incorrectly judging them for actions people assume they may or may not have taken. Some of the comments left on the IG pictures of the victims, especially the ones the survivors were tagged in, were beyond nasty, if not right down cruel. I don't understand how our society became so inhumane. It sounds like the two surviving roommates' behaviours were 100% appropriate for the situation they found themselves in. And I agree, like I said, this all alleged, but I think it explains a lot. I'm marking this as information rather than theory, because I'm not making a theory myself. I'm just relaying information given by the individuals who were there when the call was made. And look,
that's someone's channel that someone reached out to him to bring information pertaining to the morning after the murders. So let's chop that up briefly. Some people, including myself, I can own my part. Yes, we had something negative to say about the roommates because we only went on what was told to us, which I keep tell people. It's called a version. If the news had this information, don't you think they would have told us that the girls were outside? Maybe a news agent did, but I didn't hear the version in this manner. I only went by what was told on the network that I listened to. And as I tell people all the time, when you're dealing with a true crime, open investigation, one version on 15th Street is not going to be the version you hear over here on the 18th Street, and so on and so forth. So if people are only getting a version on the network they're watching, then that's all they have to go on. Because a lot of people don't go from channel to channel, to news channel to channel, trying to see what somebody got different to say about a storyline. Only usually internet junkies do that. Just stay on social media all damn day, going from network to Facebook to see what somebody has to say. There are people right now that don't even watch the news. They don't know anything about Idaho. I talk to people all the time pertaining to my stories, and they don't know nothing about the stuff I talk about on YouTube. They don't even watch the news. They don't know that 4 people are dead in Idaho. Are you all following what I'm saying to you? They didn't know the baby was dead in Savannah. They didn't even know about Summer Wells, and they live in Tennessee. That's why I keep trying to tell people. People don't watch the news. They don't sit up on YouTube all damn day watching networks and channels and jumping in and out of chats. They do not do that. And I'm glad to hear possibly some of these people don't do it because it becomes daunting with the he said and the she said. So yes, some of us had something negative to say because the version we got is that they saw somebody unconscious, the roommates, and called for friends' help. That's the version we got. So we didn't know no more than what was told. It's only when you start hearing other people say, oh no, that's not how it went. This one went outside, blah, blah, blah. Other people came on the scene. Then other people started calling 911. That's not what we heard. Everybody, that's the whole point of a story. Everybody does not hear the version that you heard. So somebody should have been double checking to make sure they were repeating the right version via the news. But that's the point. You only know what's told to you. So I can't even get mad at the news because whoever they spoke to gave them that version, which led us to be critical of the roommates. So now we know that they went and saw the other people were dead. And then you hear this guy saying, well, I don't think they contaminated anything. How do you know what they did in there? I wasn't there. Nobody was there but them. We don't know what was going on in that house. Now you count ambulance people coming, walking through, police coming, going room to room. So that means when they walked in, they didn't have on slippers on their feet. because you don't know what's there unless somebody was descriptive in the 911 call. So did the person who was passing by tell law officials, to the best of their ability, that there were dead people in the house? Because let this guy tell it, the girl couldn't speak or talk. One fell out and one couldn't explain it properly. So that was an outsider doing the original 911 call. The second 911 call, I guess. Because they said the girl ran out, had already called 911 allegedly, and then passed out. So was she able to thoroughly explain she saw a guy that was believed to be dead and bloody? Because they said the scene was bad, so I would hope she would have told them, yes, the scene is bloody, he looks dead, blah, blah, blah. Then she comes outside, she passes out. Jesus, what in the world is going on? This is just, there's just no words for this case. Thank you very much, Linda. Thank you very much. This is just bad, bad business. Bad, bad business. Hold on, you guys. I don't know what to say anymore. As I said before in my live stream last night, that was very winded. I apologize for it being so long. I do not have a theory pertaining to the dead children. I do not have a suspect in mind, nor do I have a motive. I'm just bringing you the information as it unfolds via the news source. I'm not relying on rhetoric or speculations or theories from anybody else. I will play news commentary. If indeed you hear someone's theory inside of that commentary, it is his or her own, not mine. Because I don't have a theory. As I said, there's too many moving parts for me to have a theory. I want to see what else I have to play for you guys. Let's go to my community board and read some of my polls. I'm going to bring you News Nation here in a minute. Elizabeth Vargas has weighed in and talking about the case becoming cold. I hope not. Thank you all for following the content. Here is my first question at the top of the community page. Feel free to go over to my community page and take the poll. 20 people voted. Is the Idaho student's killer a Moscow resident or outsider? 64 says Moscow. 16 says Idaho resident. 17% says undecided. 3% says another state. Got 2 comments underneath. Queen, when you say resident, does that cover students that only live there term time? Crime Stories Obsessed just gave a heart and a prayer emoji. So let's go here. 64% of you believe the person lives in town. 16% of you believe the person lives in the state of Idaho. 17% of you undecided, and 3% of you say another state. Next question. Does the killer of Idaho students have DNA in the CODIS database? 74% said no. 6% said yes. 20% said not sure. Do you think killer of Idaho students has an extensive criminal record, petty crimes or none? 8% says extensive. 34% says petty. 59% of you said no out of 104 votes. Is the killer of Idaho students single? 81% said yes. 6% said no. 13% said not sure out of 105 votes. Has killer of Idaho students killed before? 43% says yes. 40% says no. 17% says not sure. 103 votes. Are the Idaho student murders the work of a serial killer? 48% of you said yes. 35% of you said no. Very interesting. 17% of you said not sure. 81 votes. How old is the Idaho student's killer? 34% said young. 60% said 30s. And 7% of you said 40 plus. 92 votes. Thank you all so much. We're going to keep scrolling down to some more of my polls. The next poll. Do you think neighbor of slain Idaho student should continue giving news interviews? 16% said yes. 84% said no out of 186 votes. Thank you so kindly. Do you think the killer will show up to prayer and memorial vigil for slain Idaho students? 80% of you said yes. 17% of you said no. 272 votes. Well, everybody voted on that one. A lot of people. Thank you so much. Once again, movie of the week is The Elevator. Came out in 2015, now playing on Tubi. Let's see what else I got to bring to you. Woo, mercy. Dear God, help me. Did police lie about roommates' involvement in the murders of the other Idaho 4 students? This was 2 days ago. 19% of you said yes. 28% of you said no. 53% of you said you're not sure. 36 votes. The motive for Idaho 4 student Slayings was personal beef with one, 9%. Personal beef with all 3 girls, 8%. Jealous of all girls, 7%. And jealous of one, 4%. Target was only 1, but killed all as to not have witnesses, 72% out of 250 votes. So most of you believe that there was only 1 target, but killed all of the other girls and guy as not to have witnesses, 72% out of 250 votes. Thank you all so much for taking these polls. Do you think Moscow police have a suspect in mind? 65% said yes. 16% said no. 19% said not sure out of 218 votes. Is there one perpetrator or more of the Idaho student slayings? 70% believe there is only one perpetrator. 15% said there are more perpetrators. 16% of you said not sure, 200 votes. Is the Idaho student's murderer a stranger or acquaintance? 83% of you said knows the victims. Stranger, 10%. Not sure, 7%. 136 votes. Ooh, Lordy. Queen's been busy with the polls. And for some of you to think it's macabre, it's not macabre to ask questions. It's just a matter of how you ask them. 4 people are dead. So why would we not be asking questions of perpetrator, suspect, local, out of town, transient, homeless? The news people are questioning. The only part that's bad is if you're spreading lies. I asked you all this question 3 days ago. Some may think it's macabre once again, but I like to feel my audience that's watching my content. I like to know how people think. Thank you, Hope. Welcome to Everyday Shenanigans. If you're a new subscriber, like, share, subscribe. Please share my content to other platforms, Twitter, Facebook, IG, Snapchat, which is whatever you patronize. How many killers do we have out here listening to the Queen right now? Has the killer been in my chat? Has a killer been on the panel? I don't know. But I'm curious. Because you do have sick people that troll the internet, and they may be sitting in the chat commenting with you and talking, and they have killed someone and or is the Idaho 4 killer. If you knew you could get away with killing someone others, would you do it? 7% of you said yes. 93% of you said no out of 508 votes. I thank you all who took that poll. I really appreciate that. I also asked you, if you answered yes to my kill question, why didn't you follow through? And thanks for being honest and taking the poll. 25% of you said you didn't want to go to jail. 63% of you said you realized it was wrong. 6% of you said you changed your mind for whatever reason. And 6% of you said still want to exact harm. 51 votes. I want to read one of the commenters. T. Nispel said, still in the planning stages. Quiet emoji and laughing emoji. The Queen responded, dear God, I hope not. Then Nispel responded, of course not. Shame on me for being so silly on such a serious topic. Have a blessed day. They were joking, but You know, there's always people who will look and say, why are they talking about that? Why are people joking? Well, you know, things do happen. Dragonfly said, I had a great plan, though. Laugh out loud. Ex-husband from 1993. I grew since then. Okay, Dragonfly. HD said, very fortunately, I have not had the opportunity to follow through. The only reason that I would kill somebody is if there was a threat to me or kill somebody in my family. I do not retract what I said, and I have no shame or guilt for thinking it. I would not have to think twice about killing them. I would do it. I would fight to the death. I don't care if I got away with it or not. Interesting. So I guess they say if there was a threat, they would try to kill somebody. Robin Smith says, no excuse for murder. I responded, better hope you aren't assaulted and have the chance to fight back. Mercy. Robin says, I made the misconception of thinking nothing would ever happen to me. Oops. Then I said, you can't think like that. Terrible things happen every day to good people. No one is exempt. Always be aware of your surroundings and gut instincts. 1 second, you guys. Give me a glass of water. All right, thank you for your time. I won't try to keep you all, because I'm already 2 hours in. But that's the sad information. Let's see what Ms. Vargas has to say, then I'm going to go ahead and check out of here since nobody else has hit the link. Thank you all for your time. I will be back later to bring you information pertaining to the vigil on campus. Will this become a cold case? News Nation is the source. Elizabeth Vargas is the guest. Thank you for joining me.
DNA test, but how soon could forensics get back the suspect's DNA?
Well, that's assuming they found any DNA at the crime scene, Adrian. At this point, they removed the cars to process them for any sort of forensic evidence. I'm a little surprised it took them, more than 2 weeks to do that. As I said when I was on the last time with you, that Thanksgiving break and allowing everybody, to leave town, potential witnesses to leave town, potential suspects to leave town, really sort of set things back a bit. They're still trying to piece together what 2 of the 4 victims were doing the night of the murders. And they need to do that by interviewing all these kids who've just come back this week for Thanksgiving break and who are understandably rattled by the fact that there is no information. It is a really baffling crime. They keep saying this was a targeted murder, but who was the target? Mm-hmm. 1 of the 4, all 4? Why were all 4 murdered? Why were 2 left sleeping in the ground floor unharmed? There are lots of questions in this.
Yeah, I'm just puzzled by those 2 roommates not hearing a thing. I mean, you have to wonder what the method was to keep that so quiet, even if they were in a deep sleep. But there's this theory from some psychologists that this could be a case of an incel, which was a new term for me, an involuntary celibate, a young man who kills attractive, sexually active people as a hostile, jealous rage. Have you heard about this?
I have heard about this here, and there are people who do this, who are frustrated young men, angry that women are not giving them the attention they feel they want and feel they deserve. Most of those men tend to be suicidal as opposed to homicidal, but those men obviously have a lot of anger, and this crime shows an inordinate amount of rage. The act of killing not 1 but 4 people up close and personal like that is extremely brutal. But again, the question, all 3 women, why the boyfriend of one of the women as well? They weren't all in the same room. So they had to go, the killer, from room to room to room. They had to get into the house by using a code that they needed to know to get into the house. Maybe they didn't know there were 2 more victims, potential victims, the roommates who were sleeping in the ground floor bedroom. But there are so many questions. It reminds me a lot, Adrian, of when I covered the John Benet Ramsey case, many decades ago, a case that is still cold and still unsolved. That case, nobody could figure out the why. Why would somebody break into a house on Christmas night, murder a little girl, leave her in the basement the way they did. None of those things added up. And to this day, investigators have not been able to answer the why or the who in that case.
Do you think this could become a cold case?
It could. It could, and it certainly is on track to do so. I mean, there might be a break. They might find some DNA that might, you can't just find DNA. It has to match somebody. So it has to be in a data bank, of convicted criminals, or through one of these websites where you can find maybe a relative of somebody who's contacted 23andMe. But you don't just you have to find the DNA at the crime scene, and it's almost incomprehensible that the killer didn't leave something. But then you have to match it to somebody, Adrian, and that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in a small community like Moscow, Idaho. I'm sure the police, the sheriffs are just inundated.
Well, they haven't had a homicide there in 7 years, and they're getting a lot of help from the FBI. But I can't help but wonder if the shock of 4 homicides on one night with a small town police force that hasn't had a murder in 7 years over a holiday weekend when the town clears out with frightened, terrified kids who want to just get home, all of whom may include potential witnesses.
Yeah, just a shocking situation. Thank you, Elizabeth, for being with us.
Sure.
Very good information. News Nation. Elizabeth Vargas was the guest. Incel, somebody who's angry, upset, frustrated, maybe an outcast, loner, can't communicate with women well, don't have a girlfriend, don't know how to interact with women properly, jealous of some youthful looking pretty girls, but possibly a youth himself, but doesn't know how to interact, upset, mad, angry. He's not dating her. Why they don't want me? I like her. I'm interested. I'm not their type. Who is our perpetrator? Young, old, middle age. What are we talking about? Homeless person, transient, college student, fraternity brother. What are we saying? Neighbor, relative. What happened in that house? Very interesting information. I want to make sure I've got this on my page. I want to make sure I keep a list of all these videos. I want to make sure I get, if there's any new updates. There is a visual plan today at 5 p.m. for those who are curious pertaining to the young people. Let's play a little bit of that in case some of you are curious. Good morning, America. It's the source. Well, he may be awkward, the neighbor, but did he do it? There are a lot of people who are awkward. They don't mean they're murderers. He's just foolishly been talking to the news people. He needs to be quiet.
So 4 Idaho college students. A candlelight vigil is planned tonight to honor the victims as police still search for their killer. Kena Whitworth is in Moscow, Idaho.
You're welcome, dear.
Developments. Good morning, Kena.
Robin, good morning. So investigators have moved vehicles from the crime scene so that they can continue processing evidence. This, as city officials told me just yesterday, it's really hard to acknowledge that someone capable of doing something so heinous could still be walking these idyllic streets of Moscow. This morning, investigators impounding 5 vehicles from the house where 4 University of Idaho students were brutally stabbed to death, including the new Range Rover Kaylee Gonsalves had purchased just 2 days before her murder.
Wow, 2 days. Didn't know that.
Talking about her car that she was pretty excited.
Kaylee's father, Steve, fears that instead of evidence mounting, it's questions, mainly who did this, why, and who was the target.
Do you think that Kaylee specifically was targeted?
It's a fear of mine. It's a fear that when you have something like this happen, the last thing you want to do is hurt the other family, and you don't want to have any kind of responsibility for those people to feel like they were just casualties.
Investigators telling ABC News Kaylee made several comments to friends and family about a possible stalker.
I mean, did she ever talk to you about a potential stalker or somebody that made her uncomfortable?
She did.
She did.
We're trying to determine if it's just a singular incident or if there was a broader based stalking incident.
Deputy City Supervisor Tyler Palmer says this normally peaceful Idaho community has been ruptured.
Do you feel like law enforcement was unprepared?
The training that a police officer gets in Moscow, Idaho is the same training that they're getting in Boise, Idaho. I trust our police department implicitly.
So these parents are forced to memorialize their children without all the facts. What they do have is fear, so much so that Steve told me part of the reason that they haven't had a funeral yet for Kaylee is because they can't be guaranteed the monster responsible wouldn't show up. TJ?
Oh my goodness. All right, Kana, thank you so much for being on this story for us.
Well, hey there. Good morning, America. It's the source. Very interesting information. Let's chop that up. No person of interest, no new updates, no arrests. Cars towed from the property belonging to the victims and the two remaining roommates. Killer walking the streets. Is the killer a resident of Moscow, I'm pronouncing it correctly? Is the perpetrator living in the town? Because that's scary no matter where they live, who they are. They're free. Have they been watching the house beforehand and watching it now? How about that? The fact that I heard yesterday the victims' names of, not the victims, but the survivors who are alive, the two roommates, their names were mentioned on someone's channel, which you shouldn't have mentioned their names. And you all are careless out here. Let me say this while I'm speaking briefly about this content. Why would you mention their fucking names when you know the killer is still out there? Man, you all take a lot for granted. The more I watch YouTube, the more I look at you all's comments in the chat, post about dead people. You people are amazing to me. Why on God's green earth would you mention the names of those two girls? Because if they have had nothing to do with this crime, nobody that's personally involved with them had anything to do with the crime, you have just put them on the chopping block. Because imagine the killer has heard their fucking government names and realized they were there. He doesn't know what they seen and didn't see. Who's to say one of them couldn't have got up and seen somebody running around with blood on them and they hid? God, you all are ignorant. You are ignorant. Why would you mention their names? There's a killer still out there. You think the killer has not been by that house? He has. He has probably driven up and down that street or near the street at least 2 times. At least 2 times. Because you don't even know who the killer is. So imagine the 2 girls have no knowledge of the killer. They didn't help orchestrate the killing of their roommates. Now he knows he left 2 behind. Dear God, you people, Lord have mercy. Now they have got to watch themselves because you don't know where the girls are staying. You don't know if they've gone back home. You have no idea if they're going to remain students or not, and you're still putting them at risk because they were in the house. Well, let me get to that, Joe. You all have no business talking about those 2 women's names. Because as I said, there was a discrepancy in the 911 call and how all that played out. That is why many of us were saying things about the girls left behind, because you all didn't give the adequate description of what the fuck happened with the phone call. And the girls had to have been hearing different versions. So they should have went to the news and told the people, no, that's not how it went. We're not mind readers. We're going to comment according to the information you put out. But those of you who are mentioning their names, you're wrong for that because there's a killer out here. And if he is local, he could find the 2 remaining girls. Because in his mind, he doesn't know what they seen ain't seen. He could say to himself, oh, they're lying. Maybe one of them got a visual of me while I was there. And you do have people who have seen people kill people, be immersed in crimes, and they never come forward and tell what they saw out of fear. You people need to get it together. The father of Kaylee said that it was a targeted event as well, and that he believes one of the children were targeted. Now you're hearing this commentary, he believes it was his child, which this is why he and the police have a problem right now, why they're not telling him anything, because they don't want him telling those things. And I was wondering when he was going to say something. So the fact that he and his daughter have been talking to the news, social media, that is possibly a problem for law officials because they want to keep everything close to the vest as not to tip off the killers, anybody aiding them, helping rumors circulate, because it's just common sense. The more you talk, the more people speculate, the more people assume, the more people lie, the more people meddle. Because in the end, a lot of you all are just as sick as the motherfucker that killed them. I'm going to say it. I don't care if you don't like it. Your behavior is diabolical. Because excessive meddling in a true crime means there's something wrong with you mentally. You may not think it, but it's true. You have no reason to be meddling in these cases. For what reason? Can't keep saying, I'm curious. Well, you know about the cat, don't you? Curiosity killed the cat. This is real business. These are real people's lives that you're meddling in. Inboxing, standing outside people's houses, banging on doors, putting up signs, cussing and fussing. These are real people you don't know. And if they can kill 4, they can kill you. Who are you for you not to get your neck cut? So is Kaylee, or was she the target and the other ones were collateral damage because they were there and the person wanted to play some funny games with her friends? Or were they all targets? Somebody didn't like this brat pack, friends of friends, jealous of their friendship, jealous they got a lot of attention, they were popular. What are we saying here? Who is the perpetrator? So the father now is mentioning a stalker pertaining to his daughter. He was asked here in this commentary. He said, yes. Who is the stalker? Did she give him a name? How long was she being stalked? When did the daughter bring this information to her father? How long does she believe she was stalked? Does the father know the perpetrator? Is the perpetrator somebody that's been excluded? Stay woke. See, you don't know. And I'm going to say this in case it is the killer, is the stalker. Now, the father, you have put yourself in harm's way because you have now told that she had a stalker. And let's say it's true. And he is the killer. Ding, 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 ding. He now knows you've talked to your dead daughter about it. And he don't know what the daughter told you. Man, you all are killing me out here. I'm not trying to be funny, but the part of the universe where I live, I take things very serious. I don't play around with this stuff. That's why I choose and pick the stories for common sense reasons. I've talked about true crime right here in my own backyard, and I have to be careful the things I talk about because I don't know the day that when I walk outside, someone may point to somebody and say, Oh, you know her? She's a YouTuber. She was talking about your such and such, such and such. See, you don't know. And all you need is somebody to come up and say, hey, are you on YouTube? And I say, yes. And they blow my fucking brains out because I've talked about their relative or brother or sister who committed a crime. That's why you can't never say what a person will and will not do. Because I'm a commentary channel. I don't just bring you the news and then shut the camera off. Because that kind of defeats the purpose of having a YouTube channel if I'm not going to give my own opinion. You don't have to like the opinion. You don't have to agree with it. But this is a commentary channel. I give my opinion as I see the information. If it's true or not, I don't know. But the point is, you can get hurt by talking about true crime, talking about people in general. All somebody has to know is that you're the person that said it. So here you people are, living in close proximity of this town where these kids were bludgeoned to death. You've revealed a doorbell camera has seen the girls come in, if I'm not mistaken. You all are stalking the grub bus guy, Jeremy, the neighbor, and now the father's decided to tell that there's a stalker. And the two roommates' names have been revealed to the general public on YouTube. And some of you YouTubers are pointing the fingers at certain people. Anybody from the bar, anybody from the Grub Hub, whatever, and this neighbor. Without any information or evidence that they've done anything. So you are putting these people in harm's way. Because all they need is some wacko to come around and start stalking them and bothering them as if they are the culprit, and they get hurt and they get in an altercation with these people trying to prove their innocence to a fucking bobblehead. Now the two girls have to worry about their safety because, as I said, if they have no involvement in the crime, the killer now knows their name. Man, you people just don't give a fuck. You just don't give a fuck. You so thirsty for a fucking view on your stinking ass channel, you put their names out there. We were already questioning what really happened with the 911 calls and all that bullshit. And now you're going to put their names out there? Are you just fucking high or what? I don't see. You all do not know the suspect or the motive. Leave these people alone. And any YouTubers on the ground, your ass starts meddling, you deserve an old-fashioned ass whooping. Because you don't got no business bothering these damn people. You don't know the victims. You don't know their parents, their friends. You don't know the neighbors. The best thing you could do is stay the fuck away from that fucking house. Helter skelter. Stay away from that. Leave those people alone. Because like I said in my live last night, I got a real sneaky suspicion that they navigate a little bit different out there in that Pacific Northwest than how we navigate over China on the eastern seaboard. And you go carry your doofus ass over there and pretending that you're a fucking Nancy Grace, and you're going to find your fucking head split. And who's going to be rallying for you while you're laying out there bleeding to death because you want to pretend to be Nancy Grace? You're not Nancy Grace. You're not even in the league of Nancy Grace. You're just some lonely troll with a YouTube channel and a Facebook account. And if you all don't stop this doxing and harassing people, you are going to end up a YouTube story / news story, because a lot of you have the mindset of the people that we're speaking of in the true crime storyline. And you have yet to realize that you are just as deviant and diabolical as the killers. You are on the same fucking level. This is not a game. All these people out here missing, dead, deceased, killed by their mothers, family members, strangers. These are real people that are not alive. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to reach out to some degree, but it can become a nuisance to the people if you don't stop and know your place. If they tell you they don't want to talk to you or be bothered, then leave them alone. And a lot of you do not have true intentions when you're bringing content to your channel. You have no regard for the dead. You have no regard for the living. And it's just something for you to do. And you're using these patrons and your chat members for donations to travel around the United States to harass and stalk people. And there's no way I would give you a donation to go out here and stalk innocent people, because that's what most of you are doing right now with some of these YouTubers. You're putting money in their pocket to go stalk people. So that means you're just as crazy as they are. Because I'm not going to sit here and give my hard-earned money to no motherfucker to go stalk no damn body. And right now, you all have put the guy from the bar and the Grubhub on blast. You've put that Jeremy boy on blast. He's doing a good job of hanging his own self because he won't shut up. All he had to do was talk to one news agent to say, hey, I don't know anything. Yes, I live over here, but I didn't see anything that night, and shut it down. Once they get a hold of your government name, here comes the meddling ass YouTubers and social media junkies. Wannabe web sleuths and all that. You people need to grow up. This is not no game out here. People are dying out here every fucking day for no reason, and you just taking advantage of the fact that they're dead. And that's what you're doing. You know how many people have died in Knoxville in the past week? A whole bunch. And I ain't reached out to one person. Not even one person to say, would you like to talk about your dead son, your dead brother? Because most of the people here, they don't like talking about dead folks on a platform. And it's just like what AB said last night during my live stream. For all you messy boots, why don't you go pick some people that are out on bond for murder and go stalk them and dox them and jump up and down in front of their fucking house? Let's see how that goes. Hey, I want to know why you on bond. Why you out on bond? Who paid your bond? Why you don't pick on those people? Because it's just like what I've said with Chris Dorns, and he said it 1,000 times too. You all are picking and choosing who to fuck with, but I bet you won't carry that shit to Chirac. You won't carry that shit to Memphis. Jumping up and down in front of somebody's fucking lawn, talking about why you free. I think you killed your neighbor. I think you killed your child. Your ass will be right there with the dead. You'll be right there with the dead. And it won't be no dumping your body no damn where. They're going to kill you right there where you stood. Keep jumping in them people's inboxes. Banging on people's doors, stalking them and riding by their house and filming their house. Putting people on blast as the killer. Just keep it up. Because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. They might have a little fan club that's going to watch you stalk the person you think did it. And then they're going to follow you back to your hotel or your Airbnb or wherever the hell you're laying up. And they're going to lie in wait like the killer did their victim if it went down that way. And they're going to pump one in you. Or they might decide to kidnap you and play some funny games with you, torture you to death. And then guess what they might do? Set up a dummy account on a phone and live stream your death. How about that? Hey, you like going live? That's how one black girl died down in New Orleans years ago. The boyfriend traveled all the way from Texas and bum rushed her house with a rifle and put her on a live stream before killing her. Because he told her, you like to be on TV, you want to be famous, don't you? Well, I'm going to make you famous. So he live streamed her and made her beg for her life before killing her. And that's what's going to happen to one of you YouTubers. You're going to pick the right person's house to stalk and dox. And somebody, if it's not that person, they're going to follow you somewhere and they're going to do you the same way you've been doing these people on your YouTube channels. And they're going to put you in their car or their truck and they're going to take you somewhere and put you in a chair and tie you to a chair. And then they're going to pull out their phone and live stream it and ask you, now talk in front of the camera, you like going live so much. Tell us how you feel now sitting in this chair tied up. Because you like stalking people and putting people on blast as killers and baby killers. It won't be funny when you're sitting in the chair trying to beg for your life, all because you want to be a dirty YouTuber. I don't know how some of you sleep at night. That's why I don't indulge in conversating about that stuff you all be bringing in the chat about these YouTubers. I don't give a fuck what they do out there. They're stupid enough to go play them games. That means they don't value their own life. That means they don't value their own life. So what makes you think they care about the victims in the story? Because this is not a game. These are real kids that are dead. And two of the ones that are remaining, their names have now been put on blast on a YouTube channel. So we have to pray that the killer doesn't try to reach out to the remaining two. Now you got these other messy boots, wannabe web sleuths implicating anybody that saw the kids to put their lives in danger. None of us know the killer. None of us know the motive. None of us know the target or targets. And it is not right to go out here and put these people on blast because you saw them on the news or you heard somebody mention their name as a potential suspect. That is just somebody's assumption. That's not facts. And I will not participate in no lynching of anybody without verification. If you want to donate to this great network, $Deganji129 Cash App. All stickers, chats, welcome during my live. Thank you for those who tuned to this live stream. Happy hump day. Happy holidays to everybody. If you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution, not the problem. Thank you all so much. Hold on one second, you guys. All right, everybody. That was a brief call, wasn't about nothing. Be a part of the solution, not the problem. Mind the children. Be safe shopping. Go in groups at night if need be. Do not go to anyone's car or van trying to buy any type of merchandise, hot merchandise. Ask not to become a victim. Beware of your surroundings inside of stores and outside. Do not fumble for keys outside. Make sure you have your keys ready before going to your automobile. Do not leave any parcels on the seat floorboards. Put all parcels inside of your trunk. Do not leave boxes outside of your dumpster and or garbage can as to not show what you have purchased. Beware of what you post to social media. Another thing I want to say that I didn't think about because I got so much running through my head with this case is that Kaylee just bought a truck. You heard that in this video. I want to make sure I focus on that before I leave. Does that truck have anything to do with her death? 2 days before is very interesting. Was she posting the truck to social media? Did somebody become jealous? Did somebody become jealous of her purchasing that truck? Because I find it very interesting. A person purchases a truck, 2 days later, they're dead. Could be nothing, could be something. But it's information that's been released now by the father. Also, she had alleged stalker that she told the father about, but police cannot verify the stalker. Why is that? Or are they not telling us because they don't want anything else released to the public since the father's been talking? The sister's been talking. Ethan's parents have talked. But it's natural for people to talk to the news when their child's been murdered. You would question them if they didn't talk to the news. You judge them anyway. So it's like a double-edged sword. You can't win. But this is a baffling case out of Idaho. Small town. 9 times out of 10, most of the population is there because of the university, because people do move to those towns to go to school, and then they stay there after going to school or dropping out of school. So their economy will be affected in this town, especially if a lot of the children leave the town, don't return. This case is jacked up all the way. But I am curious about this automobile that she purchased. Nice looking truck, expensive truck, I'm sure. More expensive than the average car. Does this truck have anything to do with the death of all of the individuals? Was somebody jealous that she got a new truck? Jealous of her anyway? Now here comes a new automobile. Envy-hearted. What is going on? Who was the target out of the 4? Was the target all of the kids, 2 girls, 3 girls, or all 4? Did the killer intend to kill anybody else in the house? But if they've never been in the house and Kaylee was the target, let's just say it was her. I'm not saying that it was. If indeed it was Kaylee or any one person in the house, maybe they killed everybody because they went looking in the house, in the rooms, did not know which room belonged to their intended target, so they killed them anyway. Were the others collateral damage? Because the killer was in the house and just went ahead and took them all out anyway. Is this story about one person? But the perpetrator killed everybody to clear the rooms out. It had no knowledge of the 2 in the basement. Is that what happened? Only one individual was the target, but the killer killed everybody anyway, as not to worry about being seen, leaving any eyewitnesses. Was Kaylee the intended target? Did her purchasing a new car set somebody off, put them in a tailspin? They got in their feelings. Or is it jealousy of all of the friends? What is the truth? And did the perpetrator know about the other 2 on the bottom level? Did the perpetrator ever go in the house before? Or did the person just go in the house to kill 1, 2, 3, 4, only one? What is the motive? This is a very baffling story. I want to thank you all for following the content. I'll possibly be back on later this evening or tonight to bring you more information after the vigil and any other new updates I have. Is this going to be a cold case? Do they have an idea of a suspect? Is there a profile already up by the FBI? Anything in the cars in relation to the crime? Why was a knife used? Who's the perpetrator? Young, old, white, black, Hispanic, tall, fat, short? How did the perpetrator get in? By code or through a window or the glass door? Does he have remorse? Has he told somebody? Did he cut himself? Went to the doctor, ER, walk-in clinic? Where is he? Is he a neighbor in one of those apartment buildings? Been to the scene, looked at the scene, on the scene. What if you find out this is law enforcement? He has access to the house and the victims and the witnesses. Lord have mercy, help me. I'm drowning. Will there be an arrest soon? Will he go to the vigil today? Has he told somebody what he's done? Does he have a girlfriend? Does he live alone? Loner? Does he live with his parents, family members? Does he have roommates? Is it a student? Boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, lover, entanglement? More than one perpetrator? More than one knife? Exactly. No facts. Thank you for your time. Following the content, welcome new subs. Like, share, subscribe to this content. Make this video go viral. Tell them to come to the queen. She deals with facts. Some speculation, but we do not indulge in no lies. I don't. Because this is serious business. Because today it's Idaho 4. Tomorrow it could be you. And would you want people to do due diligence in solving your crime and tell the truth about who you were and what happened to you? That's what you need to remember when you're talking about true crime, that these are people. They deserve the truth and they deserve justice. And you're entitled to speculate, but it is wrong to pass lies about a dead person. And naturally, even if there's some truth to the information, there will still be some people who will be offended by the information revealed. That's a known fact. And that's another thing. Will we find out that one or more has done something to someone, offended someone, or something unsavory comes out about the victims? What's in their text messages? Because I do find it odd that the ex-boyfriend did not want to come forward about receiving the calls from, I believe it was Kaylee. What's the big deal? You didn't answer the phone. But they also said that the people were instructed not to talk to the media and social media hacks. Somebody killed these kids. And I pray that it's not somebody close to the children, because that would be devastating to everybody involved to know that somebody close to the kids killed them. The crime is heinous no matter who did the killing, but it would be worse if indeed it was a friend, alleged friend, frenemy, somebody that's a neighbor, somebody to talk to the kids. It will be even worse, because then everybody will start to question, how did we not know that this person is a killer and had the mindset to do such horrible things? Please be aware of your surroundings. Please make sure you keep all your doors and windows locked. Even if you open a window or door for fresh air, you have got to remember to close them back. Please check all your windows and doors today to make sure that they are secure from the inside and the outside. Make sure there's no way for somebody to jimmy a lock or screen. Put a stick in a glass door so the perpetrator cannot break in, because more than likely they won't break a glass sliding door to make a lot of noise. But you need to make sure they cannot get in from the outside. So what you do is You put a stick or something in there or change the lock altogether and then go around and try to open that door from the outside just so you can make sure you or nobody else can get in. Please stop posting stuff to social media about your business, your comings and your goings and where you're traveling, how long you're going to be at work, how long you got to go do this and that. A lot of people right now have been stalked and doxxed and killed because of social media posts. And I brought you that commentary months ago of a young lady out of Texas who was stalked by a guy from Florida via IG. Somehow he found her, broke into her townhouse, and he murdered her. And he scribbled very crazy things on her upstairs bedroom wall. And to this day, I never got information to how he got into that apartment. That's what you all need to understand. You don't know people. And the people that are following you in your social media accounts, you do not know them either. And a lot of people are seducing people through social media and trying to reach out to people through social media for nefarious reasons. So what you think is a friendly conversation, somebody wanting to take you out to lunch or dinner, it may not end that way. So you need to do research into people that you are friending, accepting requests from, personal messages through your inbox, meetups, hookups. Know that you can be a news story at any given time. And it doesn't matter that you know them, grew up with them, friend of a friend, relative of a friend, however it goes, you do not know people. And a lot of the stories you are hearing today of dead people is because they trusted the wrong person. New acquaintances, old acquaintances, acquaintance of another acquaintance. That does not mean that's your friend. Happy holidays to everybody. Please be safe out there. Queen will be back with more information as she gets it. Working on the Shanquella Robinson case. When I get off this live, there's information that allegedly one of the girls was arrested, but I have not seen any news reports, updates in the YouTube queue, or even in the Google search of an arrest. So far, that is gossip. To my knowledge, when I get verification, I will bring you an update pertaining to Miss Robinson and her case out of Mexico. Hello, Skylar. Thank you for joining me. You all have a wonderful afternoon. Happy hump day. Be safe shopping. Also be safe shopping online. Make sure somebody pick up your parcels if you're not home when your UPS FedEx driver comes to drop off your packages. We do have pirates that will steal your goodies. Just saying. Thank you all so much. God bless all of you. This is Everyday Shenanigans.